Dan, do you want to make the peanut butter joke again so we can cut it into the pipe?
What do you want me to say? Just peanut butter doesn't belong in a fridge?
What is the feature-length podcast? Anyone?
The feature-length podcast is a show where three idiots talk about film and entertainment.
Good answer.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey, are you talking to us?
Yeah. I'm talking to the voices in my head.
Like, I truly don't know. It felt like a fever dream. I swear to God, I could not
It sounds so stupid hearing that.
If you're listening to this is a podcast.
Welcome back to the feature-length podcast.
Welcome back to the feature-length podcast.
Welcome back to the feature-length podcast, a podcast where we talk about movies and TV for a feature length of time. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the feature-length podcast. Today, I am joined by Marco.
Hi.
And Dan.
Hi.
I didn't know if that's where the hi was supposed to go in.
I warned you on everything. To talk about two musical films written and directed by Damien Chazelle, 2014's Whiplash and 2016's La La Land. Whiplash was the second film that Chazelle both wrote and directed, the first being 2009's Guy and Madeline, or Guy and Madeleine. I don't know if it's French or not, on a park bench. I imagine not, because he's not really French. But I've never heard of it, which is why I don't know how to pronounce the title. But Whiplash is about a promising young drummer named Andrew, played by Miles Teller, who enrolls at a cutthroat music conservatory where his dreams of greatness are mentored by an instructor, Fletcher, who's played by J.K. Simmons, who will stop at nothing to realize a student's potential. And La La Land is a musical about a struggling actress named Mia, played by Emma Stone, and a struggling musician / jazz fanatic named Sebastian, played by Ryan Gosling, who fall in love while attempting to reconcile their aspirations for the future. And yes, both of those descriptions were basically just copied from IMDb because I was lazy today. Both films received widespread critical and fan acclaim, though Whiplash was definitely preferred by most. And La La Land was the winner of the 2017 Best Picture Oscar for about 2 minutes, after which it was corrected to be Moonlight. And I meant to rewatch Moonlight prior to this episode to defend it winning, but it wasn't streaming anywhere for free, so I didn't. But
yeah, that's why.
No, I genuinely wanted to, but I was like, I don't want to pay $5 right now. Yeah. But I remember liking it. Anyway,
continue.
Welcome again. That was it. That was where I was going to end.
Oh, perfect.
Do you want to go next?
Yeah. Whiplash from 2014 is a movie in which Mr. Fantastic tries to impress J. Jonah Jameson while also cultivating a relationship with Supergirl and trying to have a relationship with his father, the guy from Aliens, also the guy from Stranger Things Season 2. It's great. La La Land is a movie in which Gwen Stacy and a guy that's never been in a superhero movie have a relationship. And J. Jonah Jameson's also there for a little bit, and he has the funniest part of the whole movie at the end when he does his little head bob dance. He starts snapping. Incredible.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
That's my intro.
Cool.
I know exactly what both are about. Thank you so much, Marco.
Perfect. It's time to address two monumental films in recent cinema history which have made well-deserved waves in the public eye. Today we dive into the American jazz scenes on opposite coasts, the inner battle of an aspiring drummer in New York City, and the dreams of two struggling LA entertainers in the City of Stars. In 2014, rising film director Damien Chazelle gave us the insane and intense Whiplash, following up in 2016 with the beautiful and breathtaking La La Land. And I don't know if there could be a better pair of consecutive first hits from a filmmaker. Whiplash serves as an extremely creative blend of a music-centered drama and a thriller movie, while La La Land is an incredibly effective and refreshing take on a traditional romantic musical. Though these films differ strongly in tone, they form a particularly cohesive team-up of a double feature. In Whiplash, we take a look at Andrew, a second-year drumming student at the Schaefer Conservatory in New York, who receives an opportunity to prove himself to the school's most revered and vicious instructor, Terrence Fletcher. Fletcher is a brutal force of a conductor who unapologetically pushes the members of a jazz band to their mental, physical, and spiritual limits in order to produce only the finest result. As Andrew takes on this coveted dream, he unknowingly begins down a path of torment under his new mentor. Equal parts of visceral character study and a wild ride, Whiplash poses questions such as, where do we draw the line between passion and obsession? And is it still art if it hurts the artist to make it? When does art cease to be a case of overcoming obstacles and become simply a cruel exploitation of someone's talent? Meanwhile, on the West Coast, in La La Land, we're introduced to Mia and Sebastian. Mia is an up-and-coming actor in Los Angeles, hopeful and vigilant for her big break. Sebastian is a pianist who recently lost his stance as the owner of a jazz club. Mia has been trying and failing to climb the Hollywood acting ladder for the past 6 years, and Sebastian has been yearning for a reputation as an entertainer in the LA nightlife scene. What they don't know is that each of their successes is tied to the others by a fateful bond that has brought the two of them together to lift each other up. As their hopes and dreams become intertwined, Mia and Sebastian find renewed inspiration in the spark of their budding romance, and the rest is the tale of the greatest entertainment power couple the world has ever seen. What's so stimulating about Whiplash and La La Land is how technically sound they are, while also showcasing Damien Chazelle's ability to skillfully tell an engaging and energetic story. Both of these movies are carefully crafted masterpieces, and both were Best Picture nominees, winning multiple Academy Awards across other categories. There isn't a single neglected department when it comes to these films. If you have an affinity for movies, musicals, or the arts in any way, you're missing out if you haven't yet seen Whiplash and La La Land. Each is a spectacle in its own right, and both present a wondrous harmony between music and film.
Nice.
I love how Dan's intros always tie everything together.
Good.
We hear that and it's we didn't need to write anything.
Well,
I mean, I didn't write anything, so
Marco didn't write anything.
There you go.
In your head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now what, guys?
We said it all.
Thanks for listening to the Feature Length Podcast.
All right, these movies are amazing, and also, I don't know if I have a favorite between the two of them.
Yeah,
I think I like them equally
for different reasons. But yeah, I will. Since I had the stupidest intro, let me throw my thoughts out there. I messaged you guys in the group chat and said that I think both of these are probably in my top 10 just favorite movies. And after this rewatch, yeah, I stand by that. I absolutely love both of these movies for everything that's already been said. They are technically both so brilliant in different ways, but nonetheless still so brilliant, and also extremely emotionally resonant for different reasons.
Nice pun, by the way.
Oh, resonant. There you go. Yeah. But it's so at the start of the pandemic, there was that thing where it would be for 30 days, post a song that correlates to this, one thing each day, or post a movie that correlates to this, whatever. So I did it for movies because it was the pandemic and what else is there to do. And one of them was your favorite movie from your least favorite genre, and I picked Whiplash for it, and I had said the genre was movies about people trying to succeed in the arts or music.
Oh, okay.
Because I fucking...
That's your genre that you chose?
Yes. That I hate.
Not really a genre. But...
Well, in my head.
I feel like they meant horror.
I thought you were gonna say
no.
People trying to succeed.
Yeah, just movies about hopeful people. No, those types of movies. I think, and I touched on this a little bit, when we talked about Tick Tick Boom in that catch-up episode, where I was the performance is really good, but I just hate movies about people that are I want to be something. Okay, cool. But for some reason, neither of these movies, they're so the antithesis of that to me, even though they are that, but they're almost a commentary on that and what it would actually mean to be a person that is that type of person and not just the movie fantasy version of it, even though both movies end with the people getting exactly what they want and succeeding in the thing, but also because they're really good and a commentary on it, they don't just win at the end of the day, they lose parts of themselves and have to sacrifice. Yeah. And I think that's what really puts them over the top for me. And just as a first blurb, I love them. And also I just have a deeply personal connection to them as well. Whiplash being the fact that, as you guys know, I was in concert band, and not that it was even remotely similar to his experience, but I think
in high school?
No, obviously not. But even still, it's a heightened version of it. So there's things that happened that happened, but just this is obviously more heightened. in like a ridiculous way to like get the point across, but it still feels like a very emotionally relevant, because it's like, yeah, like I remembered my version of that scenario. This is just like taken to the extreme. So I love both these movies. Can't get enough out of either of them.
And I would also bet that like if you were to take a look at the New York like professional concert band scene, if there was an instructor such as Terrence Fletcher, I'm sure this would be a pretty accurate depiction of like the inner workings of the band and how they treat each other to make sure that like they're not going to piss off Fletcher. Like there's a lot of toxicity displayed in this movie. I don't think it's very exaggerated for what the film is like depicting.
No, definitely not. And I think to a certain degree, Carol, I don't know if you have a fact about this, but Damien Chazelle himself was in like an art school, and I think was in band and had a kind of wacky music instructor. And so this is like semi based on him, only in so much as like he had a rough experience himself with a music instructor, which seems to be a pretty universal thing that anyone ever that's been in a like concert like orchestra band, most music directors for some reason or another end up being really wacky people. But yeah, and then once you get to like the top of the top, like best in the world, it goes from just being wacky to being a straight up like sociopath.
Yeah.
So I do 100% think that like there are places in the world where this is probably not even that far off from the stuff that actually happens.
The music industry, I can't speak from experience because like I've never been a part of it, but
What do you
it seems
mean?
to me a lot like.
What about
Pardon?
your career as a pop star?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Anyway, I was just gonna say like it reminds me a lot of the culinary industry where like the head chef is usually gonna be pretty like strict, and that's kind of like the equivalent would be like an orchestra leader.
Well, and it's very militaristic, because you have to remember marching bands exist because of the military basically, and so like that whole power dynamic structure very much comes from that. So yeah, I mean there's absolutely those parallels to be made, and I think even for whatever reason kitchens, like professional kitchens, also sort of have that militaristic rank, like respecting rank and whatever type
Very
of
much,
attitude.
yeah.
It's
There's like the head chef and then all of his
underlings,
sous chefs.
Yeah.
And, like
I feel like I only
following
know
his
that from
orders,
like Hell's
or
Kitchen.
their orders, sorry.
well, Hell's Kitchen, Ratatouille,
Yeah.
but yeah, you know.
I don't know if I've seen Ratatouille.
Ratatouille, yeah.
You haven't seen Ratatouille?
I don't
Okay, honestly-
think I have, but I have a Nintendo DS game of it. So
Nice.
like I don't know why I would do that if I haven't seen it, but I have no memory of seeing it. Who knows?
Okay, hot take. I think Ratatouille is a very good movie, but I don't think it's like one of the best Pixar films like a lot of people say it
No,
is.
it's not. It's definitely not. I think people just really like it because it is so romantic about like Paris and like
cooking,
and the music and like the shots of people cooking. It's very
I feel
like
like there are many other films about Paris you could watch that don't involve a rat.
yeah, but it's also a Pixar movie, so it's like it's fun.
Okay, sure.
It's fun.
Sure.
I would still recommend watching. Like it's not.
Yeah,
It's a good
I mean,
movie.
if you've never seen it,
Yeah.
watch
Have you
it.
guys
But it's
seen
not gonna
Everything
change
Everywhere
your life.
All at Once yet?
No,
No.
of course not.
We should.
There's a
should-
Ratatouille reference, which is why I mentioned it. It doesn't ruin anything, but that was my connection.
All right.
Isn't
sold.
You know what? I'm not gonna say it because I think I know what it is, but kind of
Interesting.
because I heard something, but I don't want to say it because I don't want to spoil it for Dan.
Okay.
So maybe I'll
Okay.
text you after.
Okay. Anyway, now what? Who wants to go next with their background with the media?
I guess I'll go next.
Okay.
So yeah, I saw these movies. I think I've seen them once each a couple of years ago, or more than. I saw Whiplash in like probably like 2015, and then La La Land like 2017. So about a year after they came out, and then I'd never seen them again until last night.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but I always remembered liking them very much. I bought La La Land shortly after, but I had only watched it again for the first time last night on my Blu-ray. And I think they, like, before I had done my rewatch and I saw your message about I think these movies might be in like my top 10 of all time, I was like, really? That's surprising. Kind of a bold statement, but okay. And then I watched them and I was like, yeah, these are
They're great.
these are two of the greatest made films I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will be buying Whiplash, by the way.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Because I definitely, if I had to pick a favorite between the two of them, I'd probably say Whiplash, just because it's a bit more, like, the pace is so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Not to insult La La Land at all. And realistically, like, I really can't choose my favorite between the two. But if I had a gun to my head, I think Whiplash is, like, just slightly higher up. Although La La Land is such a beautiful looking movie. It's like one of the most beautiful looking movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think it won for cinematography, right? It better have.
It fucking better have. I don't know what else would have won that year, but
I don't know. It's also funny because Whiplash was in 2014, which, as we previously stated, is the greatest cinematic movie year in recent history.
Literally, like, every movie that came out in 2014, it was just banger after banger, dude. Like, not
what else
one of
was
them.
2014?
Birdman.
What wasn't 2014?
Nightcrawler, Interstellar, Dawn of Planet of the Apes, Captain America: Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, fucking what else? No, Mad Max was the year after. It wasn't Mad Max, but Imitation Game.
Oh yeah.
Like, literally every movie nominated for Best Picture that year was just like, yeah, this is great.
There's not enough Best Picture Oscars to give out.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a crazy year.
Yeah. Anyway, I absolutely loved revisiting these movies, and I will love continuing to revisit them.
Nice.
I just, one more thing, I love the amount of times Fletcher in Whiplash goes,
yeah.
And for the audience, like, I did the closing the fist thing of, like, the instructor, like, telling them to stop playing.
Cool.
It's almost funny at a point.
It's so cool. Carol, I will let you get to your intro, but just on this note, it's so cool to me because, like, that he has his own, like, very natural feeling, like, mannerisms as a conductor, because every conductor does have their own sort of mannerisms in that way. And so, like, yeah, whenever he, even just the way he, like, counts people in, and, like, he doesn't use a baton, like, and just the very subtle finger thing, like, it is so fucking, like, meticulous, but in such a real way. Like, it doesn't feel like he's doing a character bit, like J.K. Simmons really wanted to act. It's like, no, like, he just really is coming across like this guy. Like, he absolutely kills it as this guy.
And I bet it helped that he was in the short film version of this.
Yes.
Which I'd be curious to see, by the way. There's, like, for anyone who doesn't know, there's a short film version of Whiplash, which is what the full one is based off of. Mm-hmm. And that, like, won a bunch of awards at film festivals, which is what eventually got him funding for the full movie. Yeah. J.K. Simmons was in both. And I'd be curious to see his, like, proto performance in the
as
short.
Fletcher?
Yeah.
See, I just found that out doing the research. How did you guys know that?
Well, around the time the movie came out was my constantly listening to movie podcast phase, and gotcha. I'm sure I heard it there. But I also think, because I have the Blu-ray for this movie, and I think the short film might be on the Blu-ray.
Ooh.
I think.
Nice.
I can go look. I'll go pull it after.
Speaking of the Blu-rays, the La La Land Blu-ray is so good. Maybe I'm just, like, I'm not used to Blu-ray releases of musicals, but I just love the layout of, like, it lets you listen to each of the tracks in the movie. Like, it plays the section of the movie without playing the whole movie. Like, you can just play the musical segments. Yeah. It's really cool. Yeah. And, like, the layout is just really clean.
All right, Carol.
Okay. My turn. So, yeah, I saw both of these films in the year that they came out, because I was always trying to watch all the Oscars Best Pictures nominees. And I remember liking them both, but obviously I liked La La Land better. Actually, La La Land came out the one and only Christmas I ever had to spend in Ottawa by myself, and so I went to see it after working at Starbucks on Christmas Eve. And I had no idea what it was about. I had seen a trailer, but I think it was just a teaser, because I didn't even know it was a musical. So I went into the theater and was surprised at the fact that Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone started singing. It was so much fun. And yeah, it ended up being a lovely Christmas Eve because I just loved the movie so much. And it ended and I was just like sobbing. And I was like, wow, perfect Christmas.
Nice.
Yeah, so that means, like, this movie probably means a lot to me, partially for that reason, but also because it seems like it was made for me, because we all know I love a musical. The only thing that would have made it better is if the locations for these two films were switched, because I'm so obsessed with New York. If this was a movie musical set in New York, that would actually be made for me, I guess.
That would be too powerful.
Yeah,
They couldn't do that.
I know. But anyway, so yeah, I like them both, but then I kind of forgot about Whiplash and hadn't seen it until a couple days ago for the podcast. I pretty much forgot the whole entire plot. Like, obviously I knew it was about drums and the two main characters, and that was kind of it.
Nice.
So it was really fun to rewatch from basically scratch. I was also very nervous watching it. It was like a very visceral film, which I kind of loved, but like I was like pacing around my bedroom watching it, which is very rare for me. So props to Damien Chazelle. And then, yeah, I rewatched La La Land, even though I probably didn't have to, because I see it at least once a year. But I love both these films. I also have the La La Land soundtrack on vinyl because I love it so much.
Me too!
I know!
I just bought it for Maddie for our anniversary. Like a month ago. What perfect timing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, so that's what I have to say.
Just jumping real quick off something you said. Like when I was watching Whiplash, there were times where I was on edge because it felt like I was anticipating like a jump scare from Fletcher.
Literally, yeah. And there kind of was a jump scare.
Well, the car crash?
Yeah. I actually screamed.
Yeah, completely out of nowhere. Yeah, that is,
True, but I mean even just like in the early scenes where in like the training sessions between Fletcher and Andrew, where like it's in that stage where you think he might be trying to go easy on him because he's a new drummer, and then he just like he snaps out of nowhere.
Was it like in his
whips
first
a chair
day?
at his head.
Yeah,
his first official practice session. Yeah,
that was bad. He started crying.
Yeah, that one.
That was so hard to watch. Oh my god.
It's really okay. So I'm glad you guys brought this up because I want to touch on something, which is I actually want to get to the recommends because we do personalized recommends. Yeah. So this is perfect. So first of all, La La Land, I would recommend to literally anyone. I think it is maybe one of the most accessible good movies ever because if you are like an old-fashioned musical lover, like Singing in the Rain, old-fashioned musical lover, this is 100% for you. There is so much even just like visual cues taken from those old Hollywood musicals, but also it's so modern in its themes. The music is like somehow classic and modern at the same time. It's fucking incredible. I listen to the soundtrack all the time. It's so good. Just a fun fact, Carol, because you said you had seen it alone Christmas Eve. This was actually, I think, outside of maybe any superhero premieres that Maddie came to us with as a group, I think this was the first movie Madison and I ever like just went on a date to see. Just nice. The two of us. So that's why like anytime we've gone on a road trip, we always have the soundtrack on the playlist. So yeah, it's a very emotionally resonant movie for me in that way too. And I would just say like nobody will dislike this movie. Like I think the harshest criticism I had was like I showed it to my parents and they were like, yeah, it's pretty good. And I was like, okay. And they just weren't like blown away, but they were like, yeah, it's a good movie. And I was like, yeah, of course. Like it's not, I don't know. Yeah. Whiplash, though, funny enough, I tried to show... I showed it to two people. So one of them was Madison, and she literally, like, at some of those scenes was like, can we, like, pause and just, like, let me, like, pull myself together? Because this is literally, like, giving me stress right now. And that was not the experience I had with it, which I'll get back to in a second. But for recommendation purposes, I would say, like, as good as Whiplash is, like 100% if you have like super high generalized anxiety or whatnot, like this movie will probably fuck with you a little bit. I'm not saying don't watch it, but I'm just saying be aware of that. Maybe like give yourself time to watch it. Like it is definitely not an easy watch for most people. That being said, like obviously because of my concert band experience, I had sort of that connection with it. Fun fact that you guys probably don't know, though, is my dad, when he was in high school, was a drummer in his high school, like, jazz band and concert band, and played drums and lots of other stuff as well. He was, like, a jazz drummer. So once this movie came out to Blu-ray, I was like, cool, I have to watch it with my dad. And my dad absolutely also blown away. This is, like, one of his favorite movies, loves it. I was like, yeah, of course. But he's the only other person I've watched this movie with where... we during those scenes that are like very stressful, like him and I kind of laugh at, because not that it's funny what Andrew's going through, but because it is such like a heightened parody of stuff that does happen. Like if you've been through the real version of it, it almost comes across as like comical. Like even though it's fucked up, it's so like when he's counting and like, are you rushing or are you dragging, and he like smacks him.
Oh my god.
To like get the point across, like
literally assault.
Yeah, and like when I watched it with Maddie, she was like, "That's horrifying." And when I watched it with my dad, we were both just cackling at it because we were like, "Yeah, like this is a normal thing that like the band director would just stop and like focus in on the drummer and specifically like try to get them to understand this one point. Like that happens all the fucking time. So it's funny in that way. But yeah, like if you have like high anxiety or stress, I would definitely just be aware that Whiplash is as amazing as it is, definitely a little bit of a tough watch in that regard. So, but I would still like wholeheartedly recommend this to both these movies to anyone. I just think they're so good.
Okay, I'll go next. Yeah, I think I'd probably mostly say the same thing, to be honest, where like La La Land is definitely the more general recommend out of the two. I also don't know if there's a group that, I mean, I guess if you're just a person who just doesn't like musicals, like you've never been into musicals, you probably wouldn't, you wouldn't really particularly enjoy the movie. But like if you appreciate a beautiful color palette and amazing cinematography and like excellent chemistry between the two main actors, good.
Yeah, it's okay.
I think most people would get something out of this movie. Like even the smallest thing. As for Whiplash, I think I'll also follow the same thing that you said of like if you've had an experience with, for example, like a previous boss that you had that was really intimidating to you, this might be a little bit like anxiety inducing, like you said. And this is very much like the thriller movie of the two. So if you're, scared by, or not even scared, but just like if you're put on edge by that sort of stuff, you might be turned off by this movie. But just like give both these movies a chance if you would. Like they feel so revolutionary.
I know.
For two very modern movies, and there's not a lot of modern movies that I can like truly say that about.
Like I know what you mean, because they feel like nothing else that you've watched.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They feel so distinct.
Like I've watched a bunch of musicals, but this is neither a musical that is overly corny or super serious. Like it's such a wonderful sweet spot in between the two, where you actually like you're put into the world of the musical, but it's still very fantastical, and it like there's so much artistic license that they use to get the point across, while still making sure like not to go overboard and lose you. So yeah, if you're into musicals at all, definitely check out La La Land. And if you're into music at all, like I really like drumming. Like not that I'm a drummer, but I like drumming. I really appreciate like drumming tracks in particular, and I love a song that like will put the drums in the forefront rather than just a background instrument. So that's another reason why I also really like Whiplash. If you're also like that, then you would definitely love Whiplash. There's a lot of excellent
drumming,
prolonged drumming sequences in that movie.
Yeah,
these movies have energy like nothing else.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
Okay, I love going third, even though I kind of put myself in this position, but I get to just repeat everything they both said.
That's all right.
Yeah, obviously these are good films. We're just jumping from a week where we really didn't like what we watched to a week where we really loved what we watched.
Is this like maybe the biggest single week jump in quality we've ever had on the podcast?
Maybe. It's definitely possible. So definitely I think anyone could watch both these movies and find something to enjoy in them. As always, it's just if you don't like a musical, you might not like the musical. If you don't like to feel anxious, you might not like Whiplash. But also, I don't know, maybe because I've never been in a band scenario or really had anyone be that hard on me. Though, fun fact, one time in a play rehearsal, someone did throw a music stand at one of the actors in high school.
Was it Miss?
What?
Yeah, like, as soon as you... I mean, we'll bleep it, but as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, only one man.
Yeah,
only one psychotic man could have done that.
Anyway, so maybe I'd already experienced it, so all of the, like, anxiety was lessened, but it does definitely make you jittery regardless, so keep that in mind, but I think it's worth it overall, although if you don't like blood, you might want to close your eyes a couple times, too.
That is also definitely a factor.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to see blood in a music-based movie.
Yeah, especially since I entirely forgot it. I was like, oh, right, this gets, like, very gross at times.
But also, what I love about that so much, and this is a little bit to, I think, Damien Chazelle's style that I kind of want to talk about in general. I think why these two movies work so well for me and why I was so let down by his third movie after this. But, like,
First Man.
Yeah. Like, I love, like I said before, just that, like, somewhat heightened and, like, romantic storytelling. And when I say romantic storytelling, I don't mean literal romance. I mean, La La Land does have a literal romance as the center of the plot. But when I say romantic storytelling, I mean, like, it's not... It's like his direction style is, like, the equivalent of what Sorkin does in dialogue, but, like, he's doing in direction, where it's like he's not capturing the world actually, he's capturing the world the way it feels to be in certain scenarios. So, like, no relationship is as, I mean, I shouldn't say no, but most relationships aren't as high stakes as Mia and Sebastian's, but, like, the feelings and the emotional beats of that relationship and getting to the end of the movie and them realizing they're both in a better place, but, like, having that moment of, like, things could have turned out differently, but they didn't, but it's okay. Like, that's a very real moment, like, told in a heightened way. And same with Whiplash, like, the blood scene. Like, talking to my dad about him being a drummer, like, yeah, he was like, yeah, there were definitely lots of times where coming to the end or near a performance or whatever, like, I would get blisters, I would wake up and, like, my hands would be cramped and I'd have to, like, ice them or whatever. Even just with me playing trumpet, like, Trumpet King back in the day, but, like, like, there was one concert in particular I remember where I was, like, so desperate to, like, get this one part right. I was practicing it so much that I legitimately just started, like, bleeding from my lips the day of the concert. Like, I was just gushing blood.
Wow.
Because I just split so, like, and you even hear stories about, like, famous guitarists that, like, fuck up their fingers from plucking, all that. So it's not, I would say you are very unlikely to find anyone, again, that is exactly as fucked up as he is in this movie, where he is legitimately profusely bleeding all over the drum kit. But it's the Sorkin thing of, like, not actual life, but, like, what it feels like the heightened version of it. And I think that's why I was so disappointed by First Man, because First Man is just, like, intense close-ups and handheld shots, and everything looks weird, and, like, it's trying so hard to be real. And I was like, oh, this is not what I come to your movies for. Like, I was just... It was such a letdown in that sense.
I think I remember you, texting me a review of First Man, and you were like, I didn't like it, so I never bothered watching it.
Yeah, same.
I know people that have seen it since and been like, yeah, it was good. I think for me it was just the expectation of, like, Damien Chazelle doing a space movie. Like, I had something in mind. I had a, like, dramatic, high emotional stakes story in mind, and what we got was, like, a borderline documentary about Neil Armstrong. And I was like, okay, I mean, I could have just watched a documentary about Neil Armstrong, though. Like, this is not what I come to you for. And I mean, respect, like, when you've made Whiplash in La La Land, I understand being like, yeah, I did it, so maybe let me try something different stylistically. Sure. I mean, you know, I totally get that, but...
I always forget that was his next movie after La La Land. Like, I just never would have imagined him approaching a space movie.
Yeah.
Well, also, it just seems really weird to pivot from 3 films all about, like, jazz and music and creativity to be like, yes, time for space. Like, I understand that he probably didn't want to have to only work on, like, musical films forever. Like, I do understand that. But it's just a very hard pivot. I think you could have maybe eased us out of it.
Maybe a space musical first.
Space musical.
And then just a straight up space movie.
I would love a space musical.
That would be interesting,
but
I think.
The thing is, though, even, okay, Space musical, number one option is what he should have done, for sure. But option number two
That's our hard
is...
stance.
That's our hard stance. We're putting it out there. FLP approved. But, like, even if he just made a straight-up space movie, like, real-life space stories do require so much, like, creativity. Like, there is always so much creativity involved in those stories. Like, I always think about Apollo 13, hashtag Ron Howard directed Apollo 13, and, like, just how... Yeah, I don't know. Just how, like, harrowing that real story is, and, like, the creativity involved in, like, bringing those astronauts back in what all accounts should have, like, resulted in them being dead. And, like, I would, like, them going to the moon for the first time was also horrifying and fucked up. And, like, there's so many ways to explore the creative side of that and, like, what it takes to be a creative individual. Like, you still could have had that slant to it. So but they just didn't. So, whatever. I don't know. Space musical. He should have just made a space musical. He's making something now, though.
Is he?
With, like, a good cast. Yeah, he's working on something. So, we'll see what it is. But
Do you know, like, what it's about or anything?
literally, the day I was watching Whiplash, like, a few days ago, I saw a notification on Twitter about, like, this new person was cast in Damien Chazelle's new movie. And it was, like, an
Who was
actor. I forget. But it was an actor that did make me go, okay. So, like, it was someone good. But, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm curious to see what he does next.
Also, can we just, like, address the fact that Damien Chazelle is the jazziest name you've ever heard?
I know. He's
Like, he was born for this.
He's the jazziest man alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about jazz.
Okay, and I know this is probably like a weird thing to say, but I really did not expect this to, like, Damien Chazelle to be like a late 30-year-old white man. I was really surprised when I was Googling him. He even has like a little pretentious mustache and everything. Like, he just looks like a film school kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I'm like, it's you writing these genius works of art? You? Really? But go off.
He's so young, though. Like, I can't believe how talented he is and how much he's already done.
I know.
In, like, he's only in his 30s.
I know. It's crazy.
Doesn't that just, like, that is so...
Well, that means he was not that far away from our age now when he made Whiplash. Because that movie came out in 2014, so it was made in 2013, and we're in 2022. So he was basically a year older than us when he made Whiplash. Let that sink in.
Yeah. Oof. And then a couple years later, he won a Best Directing Oscar.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Unbelievable.
And both of those movies were nominated for Best Picture. Like,
I don't know. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the movies? Do we want to go a little bit in chronological order?
Yeah. Before we do, though, I just want to point out that there's a line in La La Land where Sebastian goes... So his sister sets him up with, like, a date, and he goes, "Does she like jazz?" And I just immediately thought of Barry V. Benson.
Yes! I think about it every time.
Me too! I was like, I need to bring up that line on this podcast. I'm so glad you brought it up. That is...
I got you.
Yeah, as soon as he said that, I also thought of Barry V. Benson. It was
oh my gosh.
So good. So good.
Alright, we can talk about the movies now.
Alright. Whiplash.
I finally found in my notes and can confirm, Marco, that you are right. The movie is basely loosed.
Yeah.
Based on a jazz band director from his high school, Princeton High School. It was a conductor. Nope. A band instructor who died in 2003. Okay, but pushed it further than obviously his actual experience because... Yeah. He'd have to press charges or something if that was his experience.
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, it makes sense. Like the heightened reality of it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the opening scene to this movie is... Oh, yeah. Just chef's kiss.
We're like, you just jump straight into it. First scene is Fletcher coming across Andrew, and he's like... It's like a makeshift audition almost.
Yeah. And it's so... Like, you don't even know who he is yet, but it just but you do, because like you can tell how much respect like Andrew has for him and like how much he wants to get this right. And yeah, it's so good. But immediately we also just get the like instant quips from Fletcher, which I love. Of just him being like, Did I tell you to start playing again? Like, I asked you a question.
And then he starts playing.
Yeah, I know.
And then
oh my God. But that's also, even just that small exchange gave me secondhand embarrassment.
Me too.
Because I just would die if I was in that position. And even thinking about how young he is, that's also something I forgot. since I hadn't watched it in a long time, I was like, oh, right, this is basically a child who is making all of these decisions and acting like he is the shit, even though he's like, what, 20 years old?
Yeah. I think he's literally 20
or 19 or something. Yeah. Sophomore.
He's a second-year university student, so it's around there.
Yeah, 20. Yeah.
I love that, though, he starts playing again because Fletcher asked him why, he's like, did I ask you to stop playing? And then he starts playing, and then he's like, hold on. Like, I ask you why you stopped playing, and you start performing like a second-rate street monkey or something.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
He's such a fucking dick.
You're such a dick.
But yeah, anytime he walks into a room, like, you feel just this, like, aura enter with him. It's almost like... sorry, but... It's like in the new Batman movie when Batman walks into a room.
Did you apologize for bringing up Batman?
Yes, because we do it every time, and I'm so sorry.
I know, but it's going to keep happening.
People have been pointing that out to me, like people who listen.
It's
They're like,
really...
you guys talk about Batman in every episode.
It's becoming a parody of itself at this point.
Yeah.
But,
we're not even a Batman podcast.
That's the only comparison I wanted to make. He's always wearing black.
He is always wearing black.
It's
He's
flattering.
jacked. He's really jacked.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Is this the movie that he got jacked for?
No, apparently he's just always jacked, but people thought, because as soon as he was announced that he was playing Commissioner Gordon in Batman in Justice League, he posted a picture of him working out, so people thought it was for that, but it's not. Like, he's just always been jacked.
Okay.
Like, he just...
Even in the J. Jonah Jameson days?
Probably not in those days, but I think in his more recent days. As he gets a little bit older, he's trying to be healthy. Okay, so I'm glad you brought up J. Jonah Jameson, though. Our second most talked about topic, the Raimi Spider-Man movies. But the reason I'm glad is because I need to ask a question here, which is the better performance?
I was going to ask if you weren't.
Great, I'm glad we got this out of the way.
I'll go first.
Okay. Okay.
This is the only J.K. Simmons performance that tops his J. Jonah Jameson performance.
I mean,
100% agree.
I also have to say this because he won 47 awards for this role.
Jesus Christ.
I would imagine that's between the short film and this, but still.
Yeah, it just says for his role. Yeah. I'm sure it's vague on purpose. Also, you know how we mentioned it's based on a short, which J.K. Simmons was in both, but Miles Teller was not.
No.
Do you know who was in the short?
I don't.
I've seen him before. I can't place him.
Do you know what he's from? He is the kid who dies in 21 Jump Street from the drug. He's in the YouTube video.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's cool.
His last name is also Simmons. I can't find his name in my notes right now, but I remember because I desperately tried to figure out if he was related to J.K. Simmons. And there was no clear yes or no answer on Google, but I'm going to assume they are not related, and that's just a crazy coincidence.
Yeah, I would think so.
They don't really look anything alike.
I know.
So I'd have to say no.
Also, the guy was in, I just need to mention this because I'm obsessed with the film, Jennifer's Body. He was in Jennifer's Body.
Oh, the Megan Fox movie?
Yeah.
I just watched that for the first time like a year ago.
Oh, and you didn't recognize him?
No, I didn't, yeah.
He was literally the only character that wasn't Amanda Seyfried or Jennifer.
Megan
Fox.
Jennifer?
Jennifer of the Body.
Yeah, Jennifer whose body we're talking about. It's not a bad movie, actually.
What is that about? I've heard it in passing like so many times.
You don't know what it's about? Megan Fox eats boys.
Oh, okay.
But it's because like a band puts a spell on her or something in like a culty thing.
Culty and
so
spooky.
it's like Fresh but with Megan Fox instead.
It's more of a wacky cult-like movie. Fresh is just like a guy that cuts people and eats them.
A cannibal movie.
And
yeah,
sells
it's
them.
just straight up and sells them.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he also eats them for some reason.
Correct.
All right, back to Whiplash. So I think we finished talking about the first scene. Maybe we should now move on to the next one. I love how strained Andrew's relationship with his father is. It is so like just uncomfortable to watch in a lot of spots.
With his whole family, honestly. That dinner scene was also...
Yeah.
Honestly, this whole film was just anxiety-inducing. All of it.
He does not have one, like, parental figure in his life that is just like a good person that like just loves him for him.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have one healthy relationship.
Yeah, like, okay, let
it's
me
him
amend.
that doesn't want to accept it.
Yes, his dad does love him for him, but I feel like you're right. Like, it's almost like Andrew is creating the problem.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because even with the raisinette things at the beginning is such a perfect example where he puts the raisinets in and then he's eating around them, and the dad's like, "Have some." And he's like, "No, I don't like it." And the dad's like, "Why am I only finding this out now?" And he's like, "It doesn't matter. I just eat around it." But it's like, it's such like, what a wonderful little character moment for the two of them to just like perfectly get that relationship. Where like the dad does care, but yeah, Andrew is just so fucking blinders on, focused on his life that he can't even figure out his way around that relationship or any relationship.
Yes, speaking of any relationship, his second date that we see with Supergirl reminded me a lot of the intro scene to Social Network.
Yes, very, very.
Where he's basically just like shit talking her the entire time, telling her how she will be responsible for dragging down his career if they continue to see each other.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, you mean their second date, also their breakup?
The breakup scene, yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he was such a dick. I also forgot that. I think because he's the protagonist, I was like, oh yeah, we must have been rooting for him. And then I was watching and I was like, wait, I don't know, were we? Because he seems like kind of a jerk.
It's so well done, because he's even like, he's saying, like, you can tell he like thinks he's being a good person by doing it.
Yeah,
like he's like, I'm doing the right thing by saying all these incredibly hurtful things.
Mercy breaking up with you.
Yeah, it's so fucked up. And like, I mean, granted, like, yeah, if you know you're gonna be a piece of shit, sure, break up with her, but like,
don't word it like that.
Don't be a piece of shit in the breaking up with her.
It's almost like, it's like the old saying of like don't do a good thing and then tell people about it. Like the fact that he's even giving her the rationale is because it's almost like he wants praise for doing this. He's like, you need to appreciate the fact that I'm actually saving you time right now.
I'm doing you a favor.
I'm doing you a favor, yeah, by breaking up with you, because, you know, yeah, it's fucked up.
And also, because we briefly mentioned it, that dinner scene, that reminded me a lot of, I think you talked about this in the Kid Detective episode. Yeah. For some reason or the other. Because there's a similar dinner scene in that
it is a
movie.
Similar dynamic, I would say.
I've solved over 200 mysteries! Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that, so throughout the movie, Fletcher references a musician called Joe Jones, I think. Mm-hmm. And in the dinner scene, Andrew mispronounces it as Joe Jonas. And I just thought that was funny.
That's funny. That's funny.
I didn't notice that.
I didn't catch that, but that is funny.
Unless I just heard it wrong, but I'm pretty sure he said Joe Jonas.
Yeah, it seems like it would be something that was maybe on purpose, because it's like he's almost like trying to be the person that Fletcher thinks.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? But like he doesn't actually know what he's talking about. So like when he's saying it wrong because he doesn't really remember. But like he wants.
That would be funny if that was.
Yeah.
If it was on purpose.
Yeah, or maybe Miles Teller's just a bad actor.
Well, he's definitely not a bad actor.
No, he's pretty good.
I think this is the only movie I've ever liked him in, though.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I mean, not even that, like as we've said, his character for most of the movie isn't sympathetic. So like I don't like him in that way, but I think like his performance is so good in this.
Yeah, like it's a gripping performance that takes you along.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I would.
And his dedication to like the drumming too.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Fun fact: Miles Teller was originally going to be Sebastian in La La Land.
Yeah, and Emma Watson was going to be Mia.
Yeah, Miles Teller and Emma Watson.
Emma Watson.
Yeah.
Thank fuck God that didn't happen.
I know. I don't know, no offense, but I just can't really get into Miles Teller as a romantic lead.
I'm with you, Carol. I am 100%.
But I don't know how I would feel about Emma Watson in Mia's role either.
I've seen Emma Watson in exactly one musical, and it was the remake of Beauty and the Beast.
Well, that's why she couldn't do this.
Oh.
Well, I'm glad she did that instead, because it was not very good.
She sabotaged that one because she couldn't get this one.
Oh, she was like, fuck it, I'm not even going to try? Yeah. I could see that.
But I don't know, even aside from like her singing performance, which I know nothing about, I can't visualize her in the role.
No, they're too good. Yeah, those two are too good. And
they also acted together previously.
Yeah.
In that movie.
Crazy Stupid Love?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
So, they've had experience working together.
It shows their chemistry.
It does show.
They were apparently in another film together at some point, but I didn't see it.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was about a mob.
Another film?
Maybe the word gangster was in the title. I don't know.
Oh,
Gangster Squad?
Gangster
Yes.
Squad. Yeah, that's what it is.
I forgot that movie.
I've
Never seen that movie.
I remember trailers from that movie so distinctly, but I
Yeah.
never saw it. I don't know why, but I just remember being like, what the fuck
Yeah.
is this movie? Interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird role for Ryan Gosling. Oh, he was also in First Man, though, right? Did we
Ryan
talk about
Gosling
that?
was in
Yeah.
First Man. Yeah, he played the titular
Neil
First Man.
Armstrong.
He's good. He's good in it.
Okay.
And Ryan Gosling's a great actor. I love Ryan Gosling. Like, Canadian Pride, shout out to Ryan Gosling. Like,
Oh, yeah.
respect.
Yeah, he is Canadian.
I think
right.
he's also very funny. Like, if
He
you see
is,
him on interviews
yeah.
and stuff, he's
Even in this.
yeah, he's
so funny.
incredibly funny. Blade Runner, he's really great in Blade Runner 2049 too. So yeah, I mean, I never not liked him in something. Although I did watch The Notebook for the first time again, also probably about a year ago, and I was not disappointed in his performance, but just disappointed in how this movie was supposed to ruin my life. And then I got to the end, and I was like,
Oh, okay. Well, Marco,
sad.
come on.
Like-
You've come to it so much too late. Like,
yeah, it was overhyped.
Yeah.
Like they just, I mean, Dan, do you care if I spoil it? Have you seen it? Okay.
No.
Like they're old and they get into bed together and die.
it's really... No, but she has Alzheimer's. And she
Yeah, okay,
can't
so-
remember their relationship.
Okay.
I'm crying.
The plot.
Okay.
The plot of the movie. There's two timelines,
Hold on.
man. It's like Christopher Nolan movie.
Who plays opposite Ryan Gosling?
Rachel McAdams.
Yeah.
Oh,
Another Canadian treasure. And then they were a
Right.
real couple in real life. I'm
Oh,
so
seriously?
overwhelmed just
Are they
thinking
still?
about this. I love this movie. This is one of like
No,
my
he's
top
married
3
now.
all-time
Oh,
favorite
dude.
movies.
No one. I think no.
Oh.
No, nobody.
Okay.
The Notebook is one of your all-time
Yeah,
top time
I'm
3
obsessed.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say something about it you might not like, which is this. No, I mean it's fine, but like my. Okay, so here's the central premise. Dan.
Why aren't we doing that one for episode 50 for your birthday?
Well, because we're doing 50-50-50.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
'cause
just,
the number 50,
it's too good of a title to pass up.
Yeah, and I also really love both of those movies too, so it's fine.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, basically it's a Nolan movie with different timelines, and in the past timeline, Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams are trying to be in a relationship, but like her family doesn't love him, and it's a whole thing, and maybe they can be
She's
together
rich
or
and
something.
he's poor.
And he's
It's Romeo and
poor.
Juliet.
It's
Yes.
Romeo and
Got it.
Juliet, fucking Titanic, everything. It's all that.
Titanic is another one, yeah.
But then in the present, there's like this old age home where, yeah, there's this woman with Alzheimer's in this old age home, and there's this guy in this old age home, and he's like, is he reading her?
He reads to her every day.
He reads to her every day, and what he's reading her is this story of this young couple falling in love. Okay? And about 5 minutes into the movie, I was like, so this is just them. And then an hour and a half later, the movie is like, dun dun dun! Like, it's actually them! And I was like,
No,
yeah.
it's because she remembers him, and then
Yeah,
they get
I
to
know,
like
Carol.
have it. It's like so nice.
no, it is very nice. But I was expecting something that I had never seen before. And instead, I was like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. I totally get it. It is very sad at the end, but I was just kind of shocked that this was the movie that like changed the fucking world and created like a billion like rip-off type romance movies. And I was like, okay.
I would also say it's Nicholas Sparks' fault because all of his
Yes.
books are kind of the same, and those pretty
Yes.
much always get adapted, especially after the success of The Notebook. So
yeah.
it's like not even really like knockoffs. It's just him.
Yeah,
It's a Stephen King type
exactly
relationship.
lesser
Stephen King
pieces of
of
romance. Yeah, he is the Stephen King of romance.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
will say though, this might ruffle some feathers, but
Ooh.
I like The Fault in Our Stars more than I like The Notebook. So
Interesting. I've never
that
thought
one
about
about?
that.
Is that the cancer one?
that's the cancer one.
Which one
And
do I
fun
like
fact,
better? Oh no, Marco.
It is great. It is great. Like I remember everyone again, grade 12, all the girls were
And I
reading
went
it,
on a
and-
date to see that.
Yes. Another name you have to bleep out.
Yeah.
And also, when I say all the girls were reading it, I don't mean that in like a sexist way of like the boys were playing sports and the girls
No.
were reading, but like legitimately all the girls were reading it. And so I ended up watching the movie when it came out, and I was like, oh, this is great. This is like a really wonderful, cute
That movie also came out on my birthday.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah. Didn't you see it like 4 times in theaters?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I also like it better than The Notebook. Oh, gosh.
I think it's better than The Notebook. I'm sorry.
I always get The Fault in Our Stars mixed up with Call Me by Your Name for no reason.
That's very interesting.
Because the long titles.
Yeah, like the syllables in the title.
Yeah.
I think
And they're both like romance.
The covers of both of the books are blue.
That is true as well.
I only see one color on anything.
Okay, sorry. Before we put this to rest, I do need to say...
My resolution is 1 by 1.
I think The Notebook has better performances than The Fault in Our Stars by far.
Ooh, okay, we gotta do a double feature. We gotta debate this out.
We gotta finish this double feature first.
We're pausing this episode and we're gonna go watch these fucking movies. No, that's fine.
Okay, so Whiplash. What's next? What have we talked about?
I think we still only talked about the opening scene.
No, we talked about the family dynamic, which is bad. Also, I did really appreciate the very like stereotype family they have with like the quarterback brother and then like the black sheep that no one understands and everyone's like belittling him in his little music career. Like that was very on point.
But I like that this was the inverse of that, where he's presented as a dick, and you're kind of rooting for the more humble, like, football player kid.
Yeah. Well, and also, you're so right, because he, like, none of that conversation is them really going out of their way to brag. It's more just, like, we're having a family dinner and catching up. And, like, yeah, granted, like, their parents are kind of being a little bit pushy, but they're just being parents the way any parents would be parents about, like, hey, tell them about this thing you did. And immediately Andrew's just like, oh, fuck this. This is complete fucking bullshit. And, like, goes off. And, yeah, I totally, like, he is 100% the instigating asshole in that entire scenario. And everyone's like, what's your fucking problem? Like, we're just having a conversation. And also... like, yeah, he gets talked over a little bit when he first tries to say what he's doing, but then they come back to it, and they're like, yeah, so what are you doing again? And he says it, and they're literally just like, nice, glad it worked out. This industry can be really tough, so good, I'm glad it worked out. And then he's like, he gets all pissed off about it, and I'm like, dude, what is your problem? Like, holy shit, like, he is so in his own head about the people around him, and, like, being perceived as being, like, a fucking great artistic talent.
It's so obnoxious. Yeah. Like, there's the one line where the football player's like, oh, you think it's so easy? Come play with us. And then Andrew's like, 4 words you'll never hear from the NFL.
Yeah.
Okay, that was actually kind of a good burn.
It's a good burn, but it's clever, also
like,
totally uncalled for. Like, yeah.
Absolutely.
I remember watching this movie, like, the first time I saw it would have been in high school. At the peak of, like, being in concert band and writer's craft and just being, like, artsy-fartsy Marco. And, like... When they're at that dinner table and he's like talking about like I'd rather die like at 30 and be broke and whatever and be remembered for something, I was like, yeah, go Andrew. And then when I watched it again the other day, I was like, not at all, dude. He's like I would rather do that than live to be 90 and have friends. And I was like,
no, he's like,
what?
I think what he says is I would rather die at 30 and have the whole world remember me or something than like die at 70 and have nobody remember me. Like, he's valuing...
Or no, and just have my friends remember me.
Or something like that. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But he's valuing, like, his public image or, like, his legacy, I guess, in his career more than, like, a happy life.
Yes. And, like, I think it is very accurate to, like, when you're being an artsy-fartsy young person, like, I like, it feels, like, I get a guy that young that's very dedicated to his career saying something like that to try and justify what he's going through. But yeah, even just like the little bit of perspective we've had being now like 24, 25 years old, it's so ridiculous listening to him talk like that. And I'm like, oh God, like this is like unbearable to listen to, that like you would feel that way. Like that is so fucked up that's how little you think of yourself, that all you have to offer is being remembered for being a dank drummer. Like that is literally just the only thing that matters to you in your life.
Yeah.
I also really appreciate the way this movie was crafted in, like, as we've been saying, you aren't really rooting for the protagonist, because I find whenever we see a movie depicting like genius or someone of immense talent, it's always like, oh, you're supposed to like love them and be in awe of them, and they kind of don't show the negative side of that. And I find that even I have a predisposition to like see someone who's talented and be like, oh my god, I'm obsessed with this, I'm obsessed with them, not realizing that like, you know, some of them could be jerks and there's like a lot more nuance there. And I have a quote that J.K. Simmons said that he and Damien Chazelle wanted to inspire discussion and debate and not decide, are we happy for Andrew or are we lamenting his loss of humanity? The debate I love is how far is too far, how much is too much, is it worth it? This kind of relentless abuse might be necessary and appropriate if you're training Navy SEALs, and I don't know if it's appropriate in a music school, but it's there and it can be productive. There's no denying that. From my own perspective, I'd rather have a pretty girlfriend than go to work with this guy and have my hands bleed all the time. I would have made a different choice. So I find that really interesting, that J.K. Simmons portraying, you could say, a monster, kind of, in this film.
Not even kind of.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, also, can we talk about how he was responsible for the death of a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, implicitly, but yeah.
Before we go there, though.
Yeah, it is his fault.
Before we go there, because you just read an actual J.K. Simmons
Yes.
quote, I want to bring up a line of his characters in the movie.
Perfect.
I'm paraphrasing, but he said something about, like, one musician was only inspired to become the legend that he is known as today because of how another musician pushed him and, like whipped a cymbal at his head, and he came back the next day and he gave the greatest solo that the world had ever seen or something. And Andrews, he says something like, but is there a line? And then Fletcher's like, well, no, because then we would have never gotten them that and that would have been a tragedy. But it's like, if you would have never gotten that, it's okay that the world would have never known it because you wouldn't have known it was missing. Like, it's not worth pushing someone's life to that point just for a piece of art. Yeah. And I, as someone who's going into, like, an art career path, like, I'm trying to I am making a point to remind myself, like, I'm not a fucking paramedic or a doctor or someone saving lives. Like, I'm making art, and art is not, like, it's not, like, life-changing in the way that it physically affects someone's life. It's an entertainment. Like, you're not... how do I word this? Like, it's not a first-tier, like...
it's not what I mean? It's not like S tier importance to humanity.
Yes, yeah. I guess that's a good way to say it. Like, I feel like all artists need to constantly remind themselves that what they're doing is for the purpose of others' entertainment, and to, like, try and make a statement within that, but not anything more than that. Like, a lot of people seem to think that they're, like, a revolutionary, and they just need to they need to humble themselves, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, but not to turn this into, like, a bigger, broader discussion.
No, let's
than
do
it
it.
needs
We're
to
going
be.
there.
Turn it into a bigger discussion.
I was gonna go there anyway, so let's do it.
I was going to say, but then it doesn't help the fact when certain consumers of the media will then approach these people and be like, oh my god, like, this movie saved my life, or this song saved my life, or I'm only alive because of your YouTube videos, or whatever freaking media it is. Because people do that and do claim that those people directly have saved their lives. So then, how do they not let that get to their heads? I agree that they shouldn't, obviously, but...
I think it's fine for that to be a side effect, but I wouldn't let it change the work ethic, or, like, the mental state of the artist. Like, it should just be, if it helps someone in any way, that's good as, like, a bonus, but that's not what you're doing the work for.
Yeah, I do feel like we should state, like, because J.K. Simmons' character's ultimate point was that it's worth it to push these people that far, and I do think we're all in disagreement with that point, right?
I would be in disagreement.
100%.
Okay,
100%. Here's what's so...
Well, okay, sorry, before you say your
Yeah.
thing, there's also a spectrum. Like, you can push someone
Yeah.
healthily
No, but just like
to
this,
make
like
them do
actual
good work.
abuse is like not.
Yeah,
No, like physical...
no.
Anything
Physical and
physical is
mental
immediately
even.
too far.
The mental abuse.
Mental
'cause
abuse,
I like,
Mental, absolutely.
I feel like
But,
even in
like,
recent...
especially if you reach the physical line, you've officially...
You know you crossed
when,
the line.
When
yeah.
you whip a chair
Yeah.
at someone, or slap them literally in the face,
Yeah.
Well,
or whip a cymbal and almost decapitate someone, you've gone too
well,
far.
I would say even without all that stuff, just making someone cry or saying
Sure.
this is why your mother left you, and stuff like that might
Anything
be
personal.
over the line.
I want to talk about... We got to talk about that scene, too, because there's something so interesting about that scene. But, okay, this is so fascinating. I'm glad you guys brought this up, because, yeah, it is the theme of the whole movie, and I really want to talk about this as well. First of all, just on that scene, when Andrew says... But do you think there's a line? And he says, well, no, because, yeah, whatever. Andrew's immediate response is, yeah, exactly. And it reminded me so much, to go back to Social Network, of when Sean Parker starts saying everything to Andrew Garfield that Mark Zuckerberg had said to him. And as he's saying it, Mark Zuckerberg is like, yep, exactly. I said that. It reminded me so much of that. So first of all, just putting that out there. But
Like, once he gets acknowledged by this guy, all differences they had are just swept aside.
Yes, everything is swept aside because he 100% agrees. Here's what I find so fascinating, okay? Because there is such a spectrum with this. So, the whole line about, like, there's no two, like, worse words in the English language than good job, right?
Yeah.
Is so fascinating because I completely understand to get better at something, you really have to suck at it. And so if you're told that you're great from the second you do something, if it's a piece of shit, there is no incentive to ever get better if everyone's just lying to you. Like, I do get that. Now, obviously, like we said, there is the spectrum, right? So, yeah, like, it's one thing to say, hey, constructive criticism, whatever, and to throw a symbol at somebody's head. Those are two very different things, obviously. But the other thing that I find so fascinating about this whole thing and about that conversation in general is what Fletcher said about no, because if they really are a once-in-a-generation talent, they wouldn't get discouraged. That is so fucked up. But it's also unfortunate how true it is in terms of the fact that so many once-in-a-generation talents, particularly in the music industry, all end up dying at like 30-something years old because they are incredibly not well-adjusted, tortured people that are so fucked up by the fact that they've just been trying to do this one thing and have been treated like shit the entire time all the way through. So it is simultaneously like true that once-in-a-generation talents usually end up coming from that type of background, but it's also fucked up and should not be the goal to put someone through that. And the other thing, and this goes to a whole topic about talking about having reverence for people that have made great strides but maybe assholes historically. So people will talk about like, and this always goes to like, we should give this person a pass for X, Y, and Z because look at the things that they did and the things that they accomplished. And the counter argument to that is always, yeah, but like, do you seriously think no one in the history of humanity would have ever also done something equivalent to, if not greater to that, without having to be that type of person? Which is also the fascinating thing of, if we didn't do this extreme method, like what happens? So like, even if Andrew doesn't have a Fletcher in this scenario, like what happens to Andrew in this movie without a Fletcher? Like, is he content, or does
If he never knew Fletcher?
Yes.
I think so.
You think so?
I think if he had never known Fletcher, or someone like Fletcher, like there are other Fletchers.
Yes.
But if he had never like met a Fletcher type, with like, he's a very talented, he's an extremely talented
he's extremely
drummer,
talented, yeah.
and he would go on to find success regardless. And I think that if he had just fallen under the hands of like a more understanding instructor, that like makes all the difference in the world.
See, I was thinking about that too, and what I sort of stumbled upon, and I think this goes to kind of the point you were making, Carol, is like, I almost feel like society is Fletcher. Like, society expects to, not all people, but like in general, artists to be these like fucking weird genius people that we don't understand. And like we give so much praise to people who are like that I almost have taken away. And I guess like, I mean, you could argue specifically about Andrew or not, but the idea that so many of these people, even in the real world, it's almost like they've had that ingrained in them as much as like gender norms are ingrained in people, of just like, if you are a talented artist, that means you have to be this way. And like not everybody necessarily ends up following through with traditional gender norms. Like not all artists end up being that way, but there are a lot of successful artists that do, because they've been taught that like in general by society, like that is what it means to be a successful artist, is to be a weird dysfunctional person, and it's through that dysfunction that you find that's your muse to creating great art. And it's like, that's such bullshit, but like that is how so many people think.
Are you trying to say Jared Leto is our fault?
Yes, I'm trying to say Jared Leto, Carol. I'm trying to say Jared fucking Leto, okay? And any method actor. Listen, nothing has made me happier in the last 2 weeks than the swarm of actors that have come out in the wake of Jared Leto playing Morbius and been like, method acting this is not method acting.
Yeah.
Being an asshole on set and sending people fucking use condoms, and for Morbius, he would like actually be in a wheelchair the whole time.
Yeah.
And made people wheel him around.
To the point where it's just like, it's inconvenient to the production.
Exactly.
Apparently his bathroom
down.
breaks took like an hour.
Yeah. That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And like that has nothing to do with being a good artist. But
No.
that is such a perfect real world example of like what I feel like the mentality of Andrew is in this movie, where it's, and I think even what I got out of that scene was not necessarily that Fletcher instilled it in him, but Fletcher gave him the okay. It's almost like his whole life he was waiting for someone to tell him that, because maybe that's how he already kind of felt. And so when Fletcher was like, yeah, you need to be fucked up, and it's totally fine that you have bad relationships with everyone, and this is the only thing that matters, and whatever. And Andrew was like, aha, I knew it. This is the thing that's going to make me better than anyone.
Here's a question, though.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, and we can only guess, do you think his relationship with his father was better before he heard of Terrence Fletcher?
I don't think so.
Because I get the sense that him and his father, once upon a time, had a healthy relationship, but ever since he started at this school and learned of Fletcher and just the whole like atmosphere of the school in general,
the existence of Fletcher at the school,
his presence,
yeah,
almost,
his presence,
like he's haunting the school.
Yeah,
it's like this school environment became like a tumor in him.
Interesting.
That it's just like it's the only thing he thinks about anymore.
Yes, but okay, so that's fair. I would agree with that. Probably that it was almost like getting to the school that put that in him. But then my retort to that, or like addition onto that, would be that I think like that's exactly the point of like the whole atmosphere in society around these really intense art programs a lot of the time is that. So like even Fletcher, if Fletcher in this is obviously like a real person, but Fletcher as being like a physical representation of like what society expects from talented artists, almost, of like Fletcher's an idea, you know, like
he's like the Joker.
Fletcher's like all of us. We're all Fletcher.
He's like Batman, and we've compared him to Batman and the Joker now.
Yeah, he's both.
Not we.
Yeah,
this is all my
which is
fault.
Funny because I'm normally the guy that brings up Batman, so
yeah.
I don't know why you're doing it, but
okay, I guess next episode is my turn.
Yeah, we gotta cycle through, so it's not just me. But yeah, I mean, it's so interesting to think about and talk about, and because it is so prevalent in art nowadays.
Yeah, you make a good point. I would just say I think I agree with everything you said. I'll just add that it's kind of, it might be a bit of a blanket statement, because I think more and more nowadays people are starting to connect more, or at least feel like they're connecting more with the artists that they engage with.
Yeah.
And I think we're moving towards artists being more humanized in the public eye.
Too.
I think that's because of social media, though.
Yes.
That helps a lot.
Yes.
And I think, while that, as we talked about on a previous episode, that can lead to some very unhealthy interactions, I also think at the same time, if it's like not abused, it's a very good thing to start feeling like celebrities are being brought down to like like a pleb level.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's like, I know what you mean.
We are the plebs. I'm not insulting plebs, by the way.
Yeah, I 100% know what you mean, and I agree. And I do think like this generation of successful musical artists is going to be like the most well-adjusted generation of successful musical artists by virtue of the fact that there is that constant interconnection with normal people, and also just the fact that in general society, at least like at our age demographic and younger, has seemed to shift away from like be a tortured individual. Like it's cool to be a tortured individual, and like that will make you talented, and everyone is more like, hey, like, do you need help? Maybe you should get help. And and not just play drums 18 hours a day. You know,
self-care is more promoted than ever nowadays. So.
Yes.
Okay, also, just because you were talking about playing drums for 18 hours, I just want to say, and I forgot to mention when we were talking about the beginning, but because he was auditioning or whatever for Fletcher, and drumming is very tiring, you get very sweaty. Are you trying to tell me he went straight from that to the movies with his dad? He was probably so smelly and gross, and he had to interact with the girl who worked there. I don't remember her name.
Yeah.
Even though she was one of the top billed cast.
Supergirl.
Even though she was in it for less than 10 minutes. And she's one of the main characters, according to Wikipedia and credits and stuff.
I do appreciate how, like, lean this cast is. I appreciate how lean this movie is. This movie is very, like, it's an hour and 40 minutes. It's breezy. You're in, you're out. You get all the plot beats you need. Yeah, it's great. But you are correct. Also, he would definitely be very smelly. And I also did think he was very gross. About halfway through the movie, when he was all bloody and shit, I was like, you're so gross. I was like, you have to stop this, dude. I can't with this anymore.
Well, like, at some point, when he's so into it, it almost looks like he's possessed, which I know is also part of the point, but it's just a totally all-encompassing thing, and he just looks straight up freaky. Maybe that's why I never want to see him in a leading romantic role, because that image is just burned in my head.
Yeah, it's true. Fun fact, he is going to play Goose's son in the Top Gun sequel.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
I know.
That really worries me, guys. Because
like the one coming out.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
This month? Next month?
This month.
Well, maybe.
Upon release.
Well, hopefully. Upon release.
Yeah.
But I'm worried. That's all I'm going to say. I hope it turns out.
I'm kind of worried for the sequel in general, to be honest.
If it was just... If literally anyone else was in that role, I wouldn't be worried, just because Tom Cruise and his action movies currently are on such a hot streak with Mission Impossible, where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure like the action movie talent of this is going to be good. But also, like, how do you capture the magic of like the homoeroticism of playing
80s,
like volleyball with
that is
guys?
such an 80s movie.
Yeah, it is.
You know, it'd be cool though if that movie was directed by the director of the Mission Impossible movies.
That would be fantastic. I don't think it is, but
probably not.
It would be cool if it was. Anyway, Miles Teller's gonna be in it. Fingers crossed.
Good luck.
He might also be an anti-vaxxer. I don't know. I remember hearing rumors that he was, but then also he was on Twitter and was like, no, I'm not. Like, what is this? So I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm just going to put it out there. He may or may not be canceled at any point. I don't know.
Okay, we cannot say that before we talk about anyone.
Yeah, fair.
What were we going to talk about before we went into this huge, like, sidebar about...
life?
Yeah, about, like, expectations and stuff.
I don't really remember, but I have something that we can pivot to.
Okay.
Sure.
If you guys are
I think
cool.
you were going to bring something up anyway.
Oh, okay, perfect. I wanted to talk about that first actual band practice with Fletcher's band that Miles Teller goes to. And the genius psychological torture of Fletcher. And, like... Yes? I thought you like froze. I was like, oh, she's trying to say something?
I did want to say something, but I wasn't sure when was a good time to bring it up. That's going to make no sense to the people just listening. But I was going to say, I do not appreciate that the majority of it was just homophobic, like, jokes.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it goes to
like,
show,
no,
like...
it's, like, very fitting for the character, but just very
But it's
annoying.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but, I mean, yeah, it's so... Because he comes in and he's such an asshole, but it's also, like he's such a fun asshole. Like, when
it's just, like... he has charisma.
He has charisma at being an asshole. That's why he was such a great J. Jonah Jameson. Is because he's so good at, like, being charismatic. But, like...
That's actually... That's true. Like, similarly in those movies, to a much lesser degree, his insults are so funny.
Yeah, he's so good at delivering insults. But, like, first of all, that whole atmosphere, I was like, oh, I love this. I was getting such like nostalgic flashbacks when the instruments were opening and everyone was fucking, and the tune came on, and then they had to jump out their spit valves. I was like, oh, this is like hitting me in the feels. But anyway, like the whole part when someone's out of tune.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And he like calls the guy out, and the guy he like terrifies the guy into thinking he was out of tune, so he leaves, and he's like, actually he wasn't, but like he didn't know the difference.
Yeah.
So like fuck it.
My
It's
favorite
even
thing
worse.
is how when Fletcher entered, everyone was looking down. Like no one would make eye contact with him, except for Andrew,
like a
because he
general.
was confused and didn't know the rules yet. But I just love that.
Yeah, he wasn't aware. I love when they take their break. And he's talking to Andrew.
Oh.
Because it might be my favorite J.K.
yeah.
Simmons performance in this entire movie. Because he is so... Like, he's trying to come across as, like, I'm your friend. But, like, having seen the movie before and knowing that he's literally just looking for information that he can use to berate him with. Like, that's all this scene is.
No one
is
warned him, though. Like, none of the other band members.
I think they're all
They
just...
wouldn't.
Yeah,
They
it's
would
like...
not.
They've all been through it, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So they're like, fuck it, just let him go through it
Yeah.
too. But yeah, he's like asking about his family. He's like, anyone a musician? Whatever. What does everyone do? Yada yada. And then immediately, that's what he throws back in his face
Yeah.
after.
But I also think that scene was to, like, surprise us. Like,
Yes.
because this is, like, the last chance for us to think that Fletcher is, like, actually doing something good and just, like, being a little bit too pushy with his students, but, like, he means well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
After this scene, it's like you throw
Full
all of that
psychopath.
away.
Yeah. It's so great. Yeah.
And I also like after that scene where he's like asking that one guy if he's out of tune and he's actually not, and then he's like, all right, we ready to start? And then let's start with Neiman, the new guy. We'll take it slow, just do your best. And Andrew's just like after what he just saw,
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
he's horrified.
I'm supposed to start now. And then so that was that after the hallway scene that we were just talking about? It must have been, right? Because then he starts playing.
Well, no, he said after he kicks the guy out, he's like, let's take a break, and when we come back, Neiman, you're gonna be on the drum set.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
The hallway scene.
and then I like when he starts playing and he's still trying to be like, he's a little bit polite. He's like, that's okay. Do your best, try again. Not quite my tempo.
Yeah.
And then just like it ramps up so fast.
It is incredible.
Well,
Yeah,
especially
it's
by
so
the
good.
end when not quite my tempo essentially equals fuck you, because he said it so many times and you know it means like you're not even close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Kotzerman in grade 12, we used to quote that all the time. Like if whenever Miss, I'm not gonna say her name, but like whenever she would
Save
like,
me a bleep.
I guess save you a bleep. Whenever she would cut it off and be like, oh, I think we're off tempo. Like literally everyone would be like, not my tempo, not quite my tempo. Like it was the funny, and she would always be like, guys, can we please stop? Like, can we please just fucking play? And we were like,
Was she in on the joke though?
she wasn't at first, and then we had made her watch the movie, and she was like horrified. She was like, "This is abuse. Like this is awful."
Yeah,
and we were like, "It's so funny. It's so good." Yeah,
You probably confused the hell out of her.
yeah. She was like, "What? Why are you making me watch this scene?" And we were like, "Come on, not quite my tempo. Come on."
Also showed up to the line, "I will fuck you like a pig."
Yes,
Oh my
incredible. I mean, I think my favorite line in this movie, and it's such a J. Jonah Jameson line, is like, "Are you a single tier person? What am I, a double fucking rainbow?" It kills me every time, dude. It's so good.
That reminded me of I think you, Marco, brought it up on one of our episodes where like you're so tired of crying performances where they only cry a single tear.
Yeah. I'm glad they called attention to it. Also, I think that line was ad-libbed.
Yeah.
I watched.
Oh, nice.
So the Blu-ray has a commentary with Damien Chazelle and J.K. Simmons.
Nice.
I didn't watch it this time, but I think the time I had watched it before, like 4 years ago, I watched it with that. And I believe they talk about how that line was ad-libbed, and when they took it to screenings, people were laughing so hard that they were like missing the next lines of dialogue. But yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah, anyway, this whole scene, actually no, I was gonna say this is maybe my favorite scene in the movie, but I think the finale is my favorite scene in the movie, just that extended drumming sequence, and also the twist of what's happening there, of how like we think that
I
Andrew's
loved
coming out
watching
on
this
top.
for the first time, what
Yeah,
felt
it's
like
so
for the
good.
first time this
Yeah.
time, because I was like surprised by it all. It was so good.
We think that Andrew's gonna have like an ending where he actually gets what he wants, but it's what Fletcher wants.
Yeah.
It's genius.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's It's so layered. It's so layered.
It is, because so that finale starts and Fletcher's like, I got you. Like, I gave you the wrong music. You don't know what to play. You're gonna look like an idiot in front of all these professionals.
Yeah.
And he does. And then he walks out. He comes back. He like takes the performance back. He just performs Whiplash on his own, and like he becomes the conductor.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll count you in. I'll count you in.
Yeah.
And then he's showing off. So like you're thinking, oh, so he's making a good impression on all of these like music people, and he's gonna get like work or whatever. And he's like, yeah, fuck you, Fletcher. But then Fletcher's like, you're doing exactly what I wanted you to do.
It's so frustrating.
You're being a good drummer for me.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's like they both get exactly what they want, and it sucks because like he doesn't win. Like he gets what he wants, but he also fails at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it's so it's so awesome. It's so awesome.
They get what they want, but it's destructive for one of them and constructive for the other.
Yeah.
Yet somehow they're both still getting what they want.
Yeah. And only like if we ever like followed up with Andrew later in his life, only would he realize like he didn't actually get what he wanted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is what the former student who died in this movie is supposed to represent. Like someone that was a success, one of Fletcher's success stories that made it to the big times and then died at 30 something, because that's basically what happens to people that are incredibly unwell adjusted and dedicate their life to one thing.
Well, in an interview, Damien Chazelle straight up said like he expects Andrew's future to be like Charlie Parker, like dying drunk and broke at 34. And he also said he thinks Andrew and Fletcher's competitive relationship remains unresolved, which, you know, checks out because, like we said, both of them kind of win, but not really, because both of them were giving up a part of themselves, or a good part of themselves, and just kind of giving into the madness and mania that is obsession with jazz music.
Yeah, and Fletcher even like he comes out on top in this movie, but he still even lost his job.
Yeah.
So they both come out. They both sort of were destructive to each other.
Yeah.
No, because I think Fletcher ultimately is upset with where he's at. Obviously, he had to leave the most prestigious music school and his band.
And now he's playing in like a dive bar. Yeah. I have a question though. So there's the death of the one student, like by suicide, and then there's also a death of another previous student of Fletcher's in a car crash mentioned in this movie.
No.
That's the same student.
Yeah.
It is okay. That's what I was going to ask. Was he lying then about the car crash?
He lied and said it was a car crash because he didn't want to be like, "Hey, I'm a monster,"
Wow.
and ruined a man.
Wow.
I love Fletcher's mind games, dude. It's like psychological torture. It's so fucked up. Like that.
Well, even he told him he got the third drummer involved, like the golden retriever boy. That's what he looked like to me. Sorry, that's all I know him as. Just to mess with him.
The red-haired guy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which it was also again, what a nice scene where he's like, yeah, I'm gonna bring him in and I'm gonna try both of you out. Here, you're just singing the music for the first time. He's seen it like 6 hours ago, and like he obviously does better with it. And he's like, sweet, you got the part. And it's like, like he is just fucking with these guys at all times. Like,
because he said like he set all of this up essentially. He wants to really megamind this shit, but when the music book disappears, sorry, Marco.
This is a great question. I'm glad you're bringing this up.
So the music book,
when
it disappears, because he was like, never put it down, and we see him put it down, turn around to the machine, and like you don't really see. I guess maybe we could have missed someone walking behind, but it seemed pretty clear that it was a low traffic area. So do you think he also stole the book from him?
Oh yeah. I have no doubt that he stole the book.
That's
in
so
that scene.
cool. I've never thought about
I didn't think
before.
about it till right before recording this today.
I 100% think that's the case, because even when they go back,
because who would want the book?
Exactly, and no one else was there. And when
why would a janitor see that and throw
it out? And when they go back to him, and he's like, he's blaming Andrew, the other drummer, and he's like, why? Like Fletcher's not angry about it. He's calm. Yeah. You know, he's like, well, I mean, this was your fault, so I guess we got to see. I mean, what are we gonna do in this scenario? And that's when Andrew's like, well, I know it, and he's like, oh, okay, it's a test. Yeah, it's a test. It reminds me so much of in The Dark Knight, like we talk fucking Batman. God damn it! God fucking damn it! But, like at the end with the two ships, and how I'd always said in my headcanon, if either one of them if either one of the people on the ships had tried to blow the other shit up, it probably would have blown their ship up, because that's what the Joker does. Even though, like, we never get an answer. Yeah. This is, like, the exact same scene to me, where I'm like, oh, Fletcher must have taken it. Like, we never get an answer to it, but, like, I'm certain of it. Like, 100%.
Yeah.
I believe.
But going back to one other thing, so it's so, like, next time I watch this, I'm going to have a completely different mindset in the scene where he gets the call about the student dying.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, like, shaken up about it.
Yeah.
But knowing now that he's hearing that one of the, like, that this student committed suicide because of him, like, I don't know how they would have told him, but I'm sure the message would have come across in some way. And he actually did seem shaken up about it, so, like, it actually did reach him in some part.
Yeah.
Yet he still used that and twisted it to use it as a tool to continue doing the same thing to his
which is
his
pretty
future
fucked.
students.
Well, and there's also an argument to be made. Was he shaken up because he was sad, or was he shaken up because, like, once again, this person didn't end up being the holy grail of students that he thought it was going to be? And it's more like frustration that, like, this fucking person.
Yeah, or was it that, like, the world lost a legendary or
what could have been
legendary musician?
I failed them. Yeah, cool. It's fucked up, but it's cool.
But it is interesting that he said he died in a car crash, and then later on, a car crash is what kept Andrew from the performance.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And also, Damien Chazelle got in a car crash during filming.
Oh,
what?
There's
weird.
a lot of fun facts about the filming of this. The whole film was shot in 19 days with a schedule of 14 hours of filming per day. And Chazelle was involved in a serious car accident in the third week of shooting and was hospitalized with a possible concussion, but he returned to set the next day to finish the film on time. So one might say he himself pulled an Andrew.
Is Andrew?
Yeah. Except he did it on his own terms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he gave himself at least a day to recover instead of running straight from the car. Him pulling himself through the window, I was like, stop, please.
And the other guy's like, are you okay?
He's like, stay here. And he's like, no, it's good.
I just need my sticks. It's just a couple more blocks.
Oh my gosh.
If I had to pick one scene that is maybe the most, like, I don't even want to say out of place, but, like, the most, like, furthest of, like, extreme, it's definitely that scene where it's like, holy fucking shit, like, how does he even play for as long as he did?
And how
like,
does
he would be spinning,
no one see the blood and is like, hey, we need to not let him do this right now?
Exactly.
Like, maybe not anyone in his band, but just, like, someone in the audience, one of the organizers, you know?
Well, yeah, but I also like when he comes in with all the blood and starts playing, and then, like, Fletcher just walks up to him and he's like, Andrew, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, it's
Even
really good.
he is like, he has no words.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. It's great. It's really good.
Oh my gosh.
I do like when he tackles him, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently
It's very
he
satisfying.
dislocated 2 of J.K. Simmons' ribs.
You can dislocate ribs?
Oh, I do that all the time.
What?
It's actually really easy. You can do it, like, if you cough sometimes. I did it, I think, by sleeping, like, on my side and having my shoulders hunched in or something. It's happened to me twice. One time a masseuse fixed it and one time a chiropractor fixed it. It's, like, fine. It doesn't really hurt. It just kind of tightens the muscles around the area because your bone is, like, pushing on them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, but actually, sorry, he cracked 2 of J.K. Simmons' ribs.
Oh, okay.
That's a lot worse.
That's a lot worse, yeah.
Dislocated ribs aren't that bad. Can confirm.
But for the art, you know?
Yeah.
They got to take it seriously for the art.
Well, I know the slapping scene, one of the takes is real.
And that's the one they used.
Yeah, so J.K. Simmons hit Miles Teller, and also Miles Teller broke J.K. Simmons' ribs.
And they both continued to work despite it all.
Yeah.
All right, we should probably wrap up this.
Probably
this
looking at
Whiplash.
the time.
We got to get to La La Land at some point.
I think we covered, the bulk of it. We know what happened.
Do you guys have any, like, miscellaneous on Whiplash?
I don't think so. I just love, like, we talk about the cinematography in La La Land a bit, but also this movie has a lot of great. I love like the shots in this movie where it's a one shot and it's just like panning to different musicians or panning to a musician, panning back to Fletcher, panning back. It's so dynamic, and like there's, I don't know why this one shot sticks out, but there's one shot of a trumpet player and it's on the player, and then it runs down the length of the trumpet.
Yes,
and
yes.
So many insert shots of different instruments, and it's just so fun despite the tone of this movie.
Yeah, it's beautiful in a different way than La La Land, but it is definitely still beautiful, like the way it's captured. Yeah,
it doesn't have like the palette that La La Land has, but it has its own. It's more of like a classier, earthier palette.
It's actually very Social Network-esque, to be honest with you. Like, it's a lot of sort of like darkness, a little bit of green. It
a lot of red.
A lot of red.
Even just like the classroom settings.
Yeah.
Or like think of a concert hall.
Yeah.
That's kind of. I feel like that's the palette that the movie itself went for.
Yeah, it is quite beautiful.
I do have just a couple more things to say. One is that apparently when in that first practice, Fletcher forced Neiman, Andrew, some of the fun facts only called him by his last name, to count off 2:15 beats per minute, and then says he got it wrong. Apparently his timing was actually perfect. So this is a very early clue that Fletcher's gonna fuck with him to turn him into a legendary musician. And then just two other things I appreciated learning is that, one, the only reason this film got made is because he wrote it initially in frustration while trying to get his musical La La Land off the ground. And so it was only the success of this film that finally convinced someone to allow him to make La La Land. So thank God for Whiplash. And then what else was I going to say? Maybe come back to me. I lost that other note.
Sure.
You got anything else, Marco?
I have some miscellaneous ones. Most of them are just quotes, but that's okay.
Cool.
First of all, Blumhouse produced this.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, like, kind of fascinating to see, because they
couldn't believe that.
They do so much horror stuff, but I guess this is kind of a horror movie.
This was almost a psychological thriller.
This is the horror of music movies.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of makes sense. And then I just have some quotes here. Did I ask you to start playing again? Like we talked about at the beginning. That one's fantastic. Oh my god. Okay, wait. I gotta say this one to the end.
Okay.
Because we might have to cut this, Carol, if you don't want to talk about it. But, okay, yeah, the tuning one. Either you're deliberately playing out of tune to sabotage my band, or you don't know the difference. I don't know what's worse. The entire "are you rushing" or "are you dragging" sequence. Do I look like a double fucking rainbow? Just need to shout that out again. Beautiful.
Are you one of those single tier people?
Are you one of those single tier? And then get the fuck out of my sight before I demolish you. It's just a fantastic
That
insult.
was just the guy that was gonna bring them onto the stage, by the way.
He just calls him Mini-Me at one point too. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Okay, here's my other thing.
Okay.
When this is such a pull. I don't know why I thought of this, but when Andrew is asking Supergirl, Melissa Benoist, out on a date, he says that he knows this great pizza place.
Okay.
And I don't know why, Carol, but this made me think of... Do you remember in, like, I want to say first year, when some guy asked you out to go get coffee, but he just took you to Tim Hortons and you got ice caps?
Do I remember this?
Because there was something about, like, the way he was like, I know this great pizza place, and they just went to, like, it's like, look, what do you mean you know this great pizza place? It's New York. Like, it's just pizza.
Yeah.
And, like, the way, it just made me think of that guy, and I remember you and I were roasting him, because he was, like, he was super, quote-unquote, into coffee, and he went to Tim fucking Hortons, and I was like, it's Canada, like, what? Yeah, anyway, so it just made me think of that.
I think it was the case that someone said they wanted to take me to a coffee shop, and I was like, okay, cute, where? And they were like, Tim Hortons. And then I decided to not see them.
Good for you. I would, yeah, that is...
Because I was going to say, I don't
yeah.
think I would have sat through a Tim Hortons coffee date at any age. I have very few limits and boundaries, but that is one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just, I don't know why. Yeah, him saying he knew a great pizza place. I was like, it just has the same energy to me.
Well, and also
like,
then it ended up being a really shitty pizza place that he only liked because it played jazz.
Just like Tim Hortons, exactly.
They play
so it
great
all
music
ties
there.
together. Yeah.
It is just this run-of-the-mill corner street, or like corner pizza
Yeah.
deli, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hilarious.
No, absolutely. Okay, La La Land?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Where do we
All
begin?
right, where do we begin? I think we need to begin at my favorite scene/song in the movie, the first scene.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Interesting.
It's so good. It's so good. It is...
The one shot.
It is unfucking believable how good that sequence is.
Wait.
I am blown away.
Sorry, before we get too far into it, I remembered the last point I wanted to make about Whiplash, and it also ties into this scene, so it works very well.
Nice.
There we go.
Something I didn't notice about Whiplash until doing the research is that there's never a scene without Miles Teller's character, because the film is about him, and I think that's also what heightens all of the emotion, because you're with him the whole time. And so the same thing happened in La La Land, where for the entire film we're always with one of the two leads. I know at one point it kind of switches between who's the main storyteller or whatever, but you know what I mean. So we're always with them, except for in this opening scene that you all love so much, but is, hot take, my least favorite song in the whole film.
Really?
Wow.
Your least favorite?
That is a boiling hot take.
I have it a hotter take for later in the movie. But, no, interesting. I love this whole sequence. First of all, I know last week I was shitting on the aspect ratio thing, but like this is the best example.
It's just so hype when it happens.
It's so hype when it opens up and you're like, holy shit, here we fucking go.
Yeah.
And I just love
Musical
that.
time,
I love
baby.
that they start the film being essentially telling you that this is an ode to the old classics, like enjoy.
Yeah.
It's very like
Yes.
throwing it in your face with literally all of the bells and whistles. I love it so much, and it keeps that energy going throughout the whole thing.
See, and this is what I think is so cool is I almost feel like the type of musical numbers that we get almost get more modern as the movie goes on in terms of like their style of musical number. Like this feels like a very classic, big fucking musical number. Whereas by the time you get to the end of Emma Stone's audition musical number, that is such a like modern version of it. That almost feels like something out of Les Mis. You know what I mean? Which I know Les Mis is old, but like you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Hey,
like
they
it's
both
like
take
that modern
place
sense of
in France, in Paris.
there you go, yeah. So yeah, I love that. But yeah, I mean that first musical number is so technically brilliant, and I had fun with after we watched. I watched it with Madison this time because when she found out we were doing it on the podcast, she was like, "Yeah, I'm definitely gonna rewatch it with you," and I was like, "Nice." And after we watched it, we went back, and I was like, because she was saying like, "How the hell did they do this all in one take?" And I was like, "There had to be hidden cuts." So we went back and we started looking to see where there could have been potential hidden cuts to switch between takes. And there are so few spots where there's like, the closest you get is just like the camera passing over a car where there's no characters. And it's like, yeah, you probably could have done a hidden cut there to reset. But
Yeah, I
like,
think there were like
this is
3 like very small panning cuts, if I
Yes.
remember correctly from the research. But
Yeah,
pretty
super
much
cool.
just one take. Yeah.
It's fucking awesome.
It's just so good. I like the setting of the crowded freeway.
I just
And
appreciate
just,
how much
like-
they were able to film on location. That like they didn't
Yes.
build these sets, that they were actually able to, you know, close down this part of a actual highway with dancers very dangerously near the edge of this elevated overpass.
It's cool.
Also, can you imagine being like an extra, or just, not like even an extra, but just driving below on the freeway and
Yeah.
just seeing a bunch of dancing people? On the
Yeah, you're like, what the shit?
It kind of reminds me, and I hate that it reminds me of this, but I think last year there was like that stupid viral video from James Corden where they were like
my God.
in traffic dancing.
He does that
Holy
multiple
shit,
times.
yeah,
He does
Yeah.
like Broadway musicals.
Oh, that's a recurring
while people
offense.
walk across walkways.
Anyway, I hated it, but I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, this movie, Damien Chazelle, is called A Love Letter to Los Angeles. And there's another movie that was also called A Love Letter to Los Angeles, which was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I just want to say the difference
Oh my God.
between those two movies, not only in quality, but the fact that they were
Well,
both...
also, what are you praising Los Angeles for?
That too. I mean, Los Angeles is a pretty mixed bag of a
Yeah.
place, like in terms of sketchiness and just, you know, the feeling of being in there. But anyway, regardless of all that, both of those movies were quoted by their directors as a love letter to Los Angeles, but this one, unlike Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, actually doesn't just lean on that. Like it actually has a purpose and stuff to enjoy besides that. Like besides the love that the directors so obviously poured into their respective movies, one of those movies actually provides something for the viewer as well. So it's not just for, like last week we were talking about movies for their creators.
Yeah. And
both of these are movies for their creators, but one of them, La La Land, is
the
also
same creator. or are you saying also
but,
Once Upon a Time?
No. La La Land, beyond that, is also like so like it's just such an enjoyable watch. Yeah. It's so fun.
Well, this love letter to Los Angeles was so effective that when I got to go to California in general for work for a week, I had one free day before I had to fly back to Ottawa, and I spent it in Los Angeles because the course I was taking was in Irvine, not the point. But I went to like the planetarium specifically because of La La Land. And I did a tour of WB Studios, mostly for Gilmore Girls purposes, but also because of La La Land. And if I had more time, I would have visited more locations featured in La La Land.
Yeah, it's so hype.
Very cool.
It's so good. Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, there's so much to talk about, but I just want to jump back and this opening sequence, fantastic. At some point, I'll like rank, I guess, the songs to some degree. We should probably do that, but we'll get there.
Is that your favorite one?
I don't know. Okay. It's up there. It's definitely one of the ones I always have on rotation in like Spotify playlist, but might not be my favorite. I gotta think about it.
Well, I have to know what's yours, Carolina.
Okay, I'm pulling up a track list, but my favorite is City of Stars.
Which version? Like
the one with both
version?
of them.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay. That was the Oscar-winning one, right?
Yes.
Because this movie was nominated for 2 songs.
Yeah, and I think City of Stars did win, which I agree with. Because the other one it was nominated for was the audition song, which, this is my hot take, is by far my least favorite song in this movie.
Emma Stone's audition?
Yeah.
Oh.
Not for the performance of it. Like, she's fantastic in that scene.
Really?
But if in terms of, like, a song I'm going to listen to, that one is so narratively driven that, like, I wouldn't just put it on to be like, let me listen to this piece of music.
Oh, okay. Like, as a single.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, like, that's sort of where I'm going to. Because Another Day of Sun, definitely I can just listen to as, like, a fun song.
Especially because that's the first thing in the movie, so you need no context.
There's no context for it. Also, I think Someone in the Crowd is really up there for me.
That's my second favorite song.
That song is really hype. I think that's great.
I'm still getting used to the name, so which one is that?
That's the one when they're getting ready to go to the party.
Roommates.
Oh, yeah, that one's pretty cool.
And that sequence, by the way, is maybe one of the most beautifully colored sequences in any movie. Like, not just their dresses, but as they're going through the rooms in the house.
Yeah,
like,
it's gorgeous.
It's so gorgeous, dude. I can't.
But I do also love that their dresses are red, yellow, blue, and green.
And they all have slightly different, like, ruffles, so when they spin, they look different. Like, it's all so intentional, and I appreciate it so much, but it's also, because it's so colorful, it immediately feels dreamy and unrealistic, because no one actually lives in a color-popped home like that. Even her gigantic poster that she has by her bed, which I didn't realize was a poster initially until she was like going to move in with Sebastian, and
Me
you
too.
see it rolled up. So I was like,
on the wall.
this is like a huge mural to have dedicated to a wall on your rented apartment, but okay.
Yeah. That whole sequence is so good, dude. I'm not normally one to be like notice dance choreography, but even just like the dance choreography in this movie is like
shout
so
out to
spectacular.
Mandy Moore.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's incredible.
Is that the Mandy Moore, by the way?
No, it's a different Mandy Moore choreographer.
Okay.
I'm aware of her because I used to religiously watch So You Think You Can Dance with My Mother. And she was one of like the choreographers who came in and choreographed dances for the competitors.
Nice.
But different Mandy Moore. She has like a blonde pixie cut and is, I think, quite a bit older than Mandy Moore.
Good to know.
Got it.
But she is
back
a genius.
up Mandy Moore.
Yeah. Yeah, I think What a Waste of a Lovely Night might be my favorite song. Because that's the first
Is
song.
that the one where they're walking back to the car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and
It's
I
just
love that
fu-
his
that
car
one-
was right in front of the party. Oh
I
my
know.
gosh, the romantic in me hates this film so much.
Yeah, it's so. I just think like that is one of the first example of just like how fucking palpable their chemistry
Yeah.
is, and like even just singing that song together, it comes through.
Actually, maybe that's my
and it's
favorite
also just
song
fun.
too.
It's so like silly and flirty. Like
Yeah.
it's just fun. It's a good time. It's a good time to listen to.
And I like the tap dancing scene.
Oh my god, yeah, it's unbelievable. It's incredible. Like
And
yeah,
I like that it reoccurs, because then sometimes if they're like reminiscing, they'll just do like a little shuffle or a kick or a dust, and
Yeah.
it's so cute.
yeah, it's awesome.
Speaking of that, like not speaking of, but the party scene right before that, where they first like actually meet.
When he's the keyboard player in the like 80s.
Exactly, yeah.
So good.
That's my favorite scene.
And
in
she
the whole
asks, yeah.
He's the
And she
funniest
asks him to
in
play
that.
Iran.
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
Every time I hear Iran now, like I only think of
Me
this
too.
scene.
Me too. Also, but let me just say something, okay? Because we're talking about the. Well, first of all, when the guy that her friend is trying to introduce her to is like a writer, and he's like, "Yeah, I've created like this whole universe of like characters." And
No,
stuff.
he's like, I want to tell a story about Goldilocks and the Three Bears, but from the bear.
It was so good. It's so yeah. But yeah, that scene's incredible. Like even just like their chemistry when she picks the song, and you can tell he's pissed off. And I
'Cause
love
it's only 4 keys.
yes, and I love when like the singer for the cover band is like really getting into it and like trying to get him into it, and he's like feigning trying to get into it, but you can tell he doesn't give a shit. It's so good.
This is nothing compared to what he's able to do.
It's so good. But I will say, this movie has so much like good. There's so much like actually good music in this movie that's supposed to be good, but even the music that's supposed to not be good is good because like
John
every
Legend
80s song they
too.
play in the John Legend song is fantastic. Like I know that song is supposed to be like you sold out. That song is
like,
great.
Yeah.
Like it's a
Yeah.
jam to listen to.
Yeah.
And then but even just like all the 80s songs that they play at this party that are just on in the background, I have and I listen to because they're just fun 80s songs. Like there's not one piece of music in this that's like a boring, frustrating song to listen to. Like front to back, it's all awesome.
Yeah.
I think also that like that John Legend song, it was less that it wasn't a good song and just not what
jazz,
he
yeah.
wanted to do.
Right. It's not his.
Because yeah, it is a good song.
Yeah, it's a fun song. When the first time I watched this movie and John Legend showed up, I was like, I'm sorry, what? Why is John Legend in this movie? It's the weirdest thing.
Why not?
Yeah, I guess why not? I just never thought of John Legend as being an actor, I guess.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I'm actually like I don't really like John Legend singing because I just don't like the way like he enunciates.
It's so specific. Like it's very it's very like parodyable. You know what I mean? Like it's so like he always has that exact like enunciation, like you said.
Yeah. Whatever. I mean, he has a good like singing voice.
Yes.
But I think his acting performance is like pretty good
Yeah.
for like a first time seeing a singer in an acting performance.
Well, yeah, but it also helps that his role wasn't super crucial anyway.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah. There's only one scene that I was kind of like, maybe we could have done another take of this. And it's,
Which one?
It's after. Okay, so like Ryan Gosling decides he's going to join his band, and they go to that rehearsal, and then they start like playing their like new wave jazz, and you can tell Ryan Gosling is kind of pissed off, and then it cuts to John Legend and Ryan Gosling just like sitting next to each other having a conversation. And throughout that at one point in the conversation, John Legend says something, and like he shot in profile, and then he just goes to like look off into the distance as if he's like contemplating, and he looks so dumb. Like he looks like he has no idea what to do because he's just not like a trained actor. So he's just like, you can tell he's just trying to look off into the distance, and it always makes me laugh. It's like a 2-second shot of him where I'm always like, that looks kind of silly. But yeah, I mean, he's really good in this in general. And yeah, his song is great. It's fun.
Okay, I wanted to say, you were talking about, we're kind of jumping all over the place with this one. It's fine because this one's less plot heavy. It's just more about the musical experience. But her audition song that you think is the least favorite one.
Yeah, it's just my least favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be my second favorite song. Just because, and I like kind of balancing it out. My first favorite is like a really upbeat, fun. It's the first song in the movie, and then my next favorite is this kind of downbeat, more melodramatic, and also, you were saying it's very like plot heavy, if that makes sense, because it's a song, but it's also like plot heavy in terms of the context you need from the movie.
Yeah,
and I think that's why it was effective for me. Not to imply that you don't think it's effective just because it's your least favorite song in the movie. That's not what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so good. I also, again, like I said, I'm still learning. I've only seen this movie twice, so I'm still learning the song titles and the tracks and stuff. But that would probably be my number 2 pick.
It's a great scene, and Emma Stone, absolutely kills it. And that, like, that's like she won the Academy Award for this, and that's definitely the scene that won it. You know what I mean? By the time you get to that scene in the movie, although it is one of those funny things of like, there's so many other scenes I clocked where I was like, she's fucking incredible, just in these like little moments. But I'm sure this is the one where they were like, look at this acting skill. But like
this is probably the scene that they showed.
I'm sure this is the one.
When they had the montage of nominees.
100%, this was the one they showed. I will say, I think to your point though, it's just a stylistic thing of like, it just wouldn't be a song that I would listen to out of context. That's all. But also, it goes back to the whole Les Mis Schindler's List of musicals things of like, why what I get out of a musical, and like, this is really one of the only like truly, I guess, serious part. Like, even the other parts that are emotional, they're sort of like heightened romantic emotional. But this part is like very serious character moment, and I guess just going by what I've said before about like musicals for me, I'm like, I mean, it totally works, but just not something I would listen to. But also, like, I don't think there's anything bad about pretty much anything in this movie. So,
okay, here's a question then.
Okay,
if Les Mis is the Schindler's List of musicals, what is this?
This is the Goodfellas of musicals.
Interesting.
Because there's so much energy. It's so hype.
That's a really good comparison, because Goodfellas is a serious movie, but there's so many ironically and unironically funny things about it.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it's like beautiful, like it's kinetic. There's lots of like energy behind the way it's shot and put together. I mean, I would say this is my Goodfellas of musicals. Nice. All musicals from henceforth will be compared to another movie. That's the only way I can talk about it.
A much darker movie.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Goodfellas is borderline a comedy, though.
I view it as a comedy at this point. Goodfellas and Pulp Fiction, I just view as straight up comedies.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I do not even consider those anything but just funny, hysterical movies.
Have you guys ever seen Seven Psychopaths?
I have a while ago.
No, I haven't.
It gives off a similar vibe of like a funny, but also a lot of death.
Yeah, it's like a dark comedy kind of thing. That's the one with Christopher Walken, right?
Oh. Yeah. Maybe I have. As soon as you said Christopher Walken, I was like, oh wait, I remember. I don't know. Whatever.
And Colin Farrell.
Regardless, I saw it a lot. I think I saw it probably around the same time I watched Whiplash for the first time. To tie everything together.
Nice.
Very nice.
Except I don't remember a lot from that movie.
It does not bode well. But I mean, maybe we'll give it a watch.
I mean, it could just be an instance of me just forgetting.
Yeah. Especially if you only saw it the once. Yeah, I mean, we already talked about it, but the liking jazz sequence
jazz?
At the beginning of the movie when he's being set up on a date is very good.
I think okay, my favorite non-musical scene in this movie is when Ryan Gosling takes Emma Stone to the jazz club, the Lighthouse, I think it's called, for the first time, and he's like trying to make a case for jazz for her, and he's like explaining what all the musicians are doing at the current time. He's like, oh, the saxophone guy just hijacked the whole thing, he's going on his own path, and now the clarinet or whatever, it's like he has his own thing, so he's doing like, that's just such a cool interpretation of jazz. It's like the improv of music, where they're constantly rethinking what the next like bar is. And he has a line where he's like, every performance is unique. Every night it's a new performance. You can come see the same song and it's a different thing
It's
each
totally
time.
different.
And I'm so impressed because it would have been so easy for that point of just... Because a lot of the running theme of it is obviously chasing your dreams, yada yada. But Damien Chazelle does love jazz, and you can tell he really does want you, the viewer, to love jazz. And so this could have really been cheesy, but the way that he then threaded it through the rest of the film... It was impossible to find it cheesy, because even when she's like sitting at dinner with her boyfriend's brother, douchebag brother, and she like tunes into
by the way,
jazz
they only
in
knew
the
each other for a month.
background, and then later on at the end of the film when they're like kind of breaking up after her audition, and he goes, yeah, like, well, Paris has a lot of good jazz clubs, and you love jazz now, right? And she's like, yeah, I do, and you can tell she genuinely does, and it's just so endearing that you can't be like, damn this white guy for trying to make me love jazz.
Yeah. Well, I remember... Okay, so maybe we can touch on this now. Now's a good time, because like when this movie came out, it was the classic thing of like everyone loved it, and then immediately people were like having hot takes about it. About like, actually, it's not that good. Actually, it's problematic.
Wasn't it
and, like,
also
I remember
like the
people,
Oscars
like,
so white year?
Problematic.
It was the Oscars so white year, but...
Wait,
I mean,
why was the movie problematic?
So, like, people specifically point out this scene, which I also love and I think is a great
It's him
scene.
being
and
like
they're
a
always
white
like,
savior for jazz.
yeah, like, look at him. Or even just, like, people always point out, like, yeah, he's, like, mansplaining jazz to her. And I'm like, I think it's more just, like, he is trying to share something that he cares.
Yeah, I didn't read that at all. I mean, I'm also a white man,
yes,
so it's not fair. But, like,
true.
I don't think that's really warranted, to be honest.
And also, like, she instigated it by being like, I don't like jazz. What do you mean you like jazz? Are you talking about this type of jazz, like the Kenny G soft? And he's like, no, that's not. Let me explain what I'm talking about.
And like they're on a date. He's just taking her to a jazz club because it's something he's interested in. Like,
it's very like anytime anything gets too big, there's always that immediate reactionary like this has to be problematic. Like let's find ways to. And it's like it's not like you are reaching if you're telling me that scene is like. Deeply
See, I didn't really see the mansplaining rhetoric. My feeds were full of like this whole movie about jazz, and you're not going to mention once how jazz was black initially. Like it was started by black people.
Sure.
And this man is like trying to save modern jazz himself, which like I guess is valid, but also there's plenty of movies about the actual history of jazz.
The savior of the genre. Like he's just someone
appreciates
who plays jazz.
No, and I know that's why I still don't think it.
No,
it is
sure.
very much to Marco's point. Like it's big. You have to find something to shit on because that's all we do these days. Like nothing can just be good and leave it at that, or good or well-meaning. There always has to be something deeper. Yeah.
In spite of everything they've done for you, eventually they will do. So that's. Green Goblin was right, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
And we've hit our quota for Batman and for
Spider-Man.
Raimi Spider-Man.
We did it. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it is way more. It's more character based than that, if that makes sense. Like I never. It's just this guy, and this is something that he cares about. And
like,
sure.
It's like part of his description. It's just this is the character. He likes jazz.
It's his interest.
Yeah. Like you could literally swap out jazz with any.
He was
art,
supposed to be a rock
this movie
star
would function.
initially.
Well, there you go. Like it still functions exactly the same.
I don't know if he was supposed to be, or the studio suggested it, or something, or someone did, and he was like, "No,
that sounds like a studio note." That sounds like the most studio note. Of
Actually, it must have been because Damien Chazelle loves jazz.
Yeah. Yeah. The studio was like, actually, can he be like a Kurt Cobain? Like, can he be like
It's okay. They got that just almost a decade later in the Batman.
It was. Yeah, exactly. Matt Reeves came along and he was like Kurt Cobain, and they were like, "Dude, finally, someone wants to make a Kurt Cobain movie." Yeah.
We don't need a Kurt Cobain biopic anymore.
Exactly. We have the Batman. Close enough. Close enough. Yeah, I mean, I love all of their relationship moments throughout the movie. Like those are some of my favorite parts. Because it just feels like, I know we talked about this, their chemistry is like so. Remember how in the Mamma Mia episode I said like that scene on the beach with Amanda Seyfried and Tony Stark's dad, I was like, I never... like, this is the most I've ever believed two characters want to, like, fuck. Is, like, this scene right here. Like, this movie is, like, the romantic version of that. Of, like, I have never believed in an on-screen relationship.
Right.
Like, they sell it so perfectly. Where I'm like, 100%, you guys are in love. Like, I do not even question it for a second. Like, their chemistry is so good.
And they didn't start seeing each other after this movie?
I don't think so. I think she was with Andrew Garfield around this time.
Oh.
Maybe. Or maybe this was after. I don't know.
They were dating around the second Amazing Spider-Man, which is 2014.
Okay, so maybe not.
So, like, it's possible. But I don't know. But also, I think Ryan Gosling is married now, but I don't know
to Ava Mendes?
No shit. He's married to Ava Mendes?
He definitely has a child with her. And so I don't know if he has since been married to someone else. But I think they're still together. I don't know. I'm not as up on my celebrity gossip these days, and also I just forgot Ryan Gosling existed, kind of. He's not really been doing much lately, I think.
Took a break after Blade Runner, you know?
No, that's fair.
Well, First Man.
Yeah. Maybe he's in Damien Chazelle's next movie, actually.
Maybe.
That's possible. That might be the new Christopher Nolan Michael Caine relationship.
I think I kind of want to see him in a 21 Jump Street-esque comedy, because I find that him and Channing Tatum have a very similar type of humor. Like, you don't expect them to be funny.
I want to see The Nice Guys.
And they are in very subtle ways.
You have never seen The Nice Guys?
No, but I know that's like a similar tone, right?
Have you seen The Nice Guys?
Yes.
Him and Russell Crowe? Okay, yeah.
I think I watched it because you said, hey, you have to watch The Nice Guys. And so I did.
Yeah, but he is, yes, like, he is incredibly just, like, the straight man, but, like, funny, because he is
I forgot about that movie, too. My brain just erased Ryan Gosling for a little bit.
Same year, right?
Yeah.
2016?
I think it was 2016.
The golden year for
Ryan Gosling?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Can we talk about J.K. Simmons' cameo now?
Oh, yeah. We got to talk about J.K. Simmons. I mean...
Yeah,
he's kind of playing the opposite of his character in Whiplash a bit, because he's like, he doesn't care about artistic integrity in this movie, because he's just a restaurant owner who needs a jazz piano player. But I do kind of wish, just as a little nod, when he calls him by his name, it's like Fletcher or Terrence or something.
Sure, it would have been cute.
Just to build a little jazz cinematic universe.
That this is what he did after Whiplash?
Yeah.
He moved to LA and managed a restaurant.
Sure.
But he completely changed his outlook on life. He gave up. Sure,
that would be fun, actually.
Fuck it, who cares? We could have the Avengers Endgame of the JCU. Oh we just build a jazz band out of fucking all these people. Yeah.
Yeah, we got the drummer. We got the piano player.
Piano player.
John Legend can sing.
Sure.
And play guitar.
Fuck it. Yeah, and play guitar.
There we go.
Rush. We have Rush. We have 3 fucking people. We created Rush.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, he's great. And then I know we already mentioned it, but like he only comes back at the end again. But it's also fantastic. His little head bob and finger snapping is so. Yeah.
And it's funny because like
I also love that
it's part of one of the most, I mean, in my opinion, heartbreaking parts of the film, because it's showing what could have been, and like just that as a trope in general, as a thing to explore, is like if you change one thing, what would have changed? That always gets me. That's so devastating to see, like, the opposite side, because I feel like in living life, you're really not supposed to consider, like, a what if, because then you're just going to hate your life forever. So I love when they're like, you know what, let's make you hate your life through this movie by exploring the what if in depth.
Yes. So we can talk about the ending a little bit, because, I was blown away by it the first time I saw it, and it still is so emotionally resonant to me. That's like the 6th time I've said that, but to this day, like, it's so good. Like, everything about the staging of it. First of all, like, you cut from their conversation outside the observatory to fall, because we've been going through the seasons.
Yeah, but then I also like when a story structures itself with like seasons of the year. Yeah,
just like the Gilmore Girls revival,
like which was flawless.
Yeah, just like flawless, just like this movie. But it's fall, but it's not just fall. It's fall
5 years later.
5 years later. nice touch. That's like a, oh shit. And then like you see Emma Stone and like she's going through like the routine, but like from the other side, you know what I mean? Like she was once the barista, but she's not the barista anymore. And it's like nice. And she goes home and like and then there's like another guy there, and it's like the most depressed I have ever been in my life, and it's so sad. And then yeah, like it's such a slow build. Like it's such a slow build of them going out and they're going to do a thing, and actually let's stop to get something to eat, and oh yeah, there's a restaurant and let's go. And like that moment of like her walking in and like seeing him, and like he did name the restaurant the name that she came up with, and like used the logo that she made. It is like unbelievably heart-wrenching. And then yeah, like they make eye contact and he does the song, and then you get the entire flashback sequence, which is just like, it's fucking it.
Yeah, well, it took me a couple minutes to key into the fact that it was like it was in his mind and not hers, because when you start realizing, first of all, the first shot is you flash back to when they first meet in that restaurant run by J.K. Simmons, and like the first time it happens, he is mad that he just got fired, so he isn't paying attention to her, so he like rushes by her or whatever. And then in the flashback, I was like, I didn't remember what happened, so I was like, please just walk up to her and kiss her. Like, please let that be the reimagining of what happened, and that's exactly what happened. And that's when I was like, oh, this is him imagining if everything had went right with their relationship, they would still be like, where would they be now? And then it's just this beautiful sequence.
It's so good. It is so sad, but also like it's okay. Like that's the point of it almost, is like, so what I took out of it this time is it's almost like them having this shared moment and this shared understanding that at the end of the day, and even like the choices and where you see like leading up to them coming to the club, like they both still get everything. Like he still has his music career and she still has her acting career. Literally, like the moments of her coming home to her family and all that, it's all the exact same as we saw play out. The only difference is that they would be together.
They both got what
and
they
so
wanted,
it's like
ultimately.
They both got and so like, but to have them have that moment and then to have them have that like last look at each other of like everything else, like 99%, but like just this one thing we couldn't pull off. So sad. It's so fucking. But it's also like, it's life, you know. But it's good. It's really good. And I also just love the choice of like, after they kind of have the moment and just sort of nod and smile at each other, which is very Bruce and Alfred from The Dark Knight Rises.
I'm cutting this out. The episode is over now.
Okay. just a hard cut for me saying, which is also to the credits.
Thanks for listening to the Future Life podcast.
Yeah. But
well, I was trying to think of what that was like.
Yeah, I tried to give you a moment. I was like, let's see if Dan's gonna pick up on this.
I think subconsciously that is what I was thinking of too.
Yeah, it is that scene, but like, I think this one's way better
because they don't say anything to each other. It's just like
they share the moment. But I do like the choice of after she leaves, and I don't know why I like it, but it just really works for me when he goes back to playing piano, and like as the image starts to fade out, like you just hear him count the song in to start playing again. And like I don't know what it is about that, but it just works so well. Where it's just like the last dialogue you hear in the movie is just him like counting to start the next song. Of like we acknowledge this. Like we had our emotional reckoning. Everyone's okay. Show must go on. We got to keep going.
One thing I find funny though is I like to imagine that, so like he starts by playing this really slow, sad, like one note song on the piano, and then we move into this sequence, like this montage, but then it cuts back and he finishes the song the same way, and I like to think that he was just doing this like really slow, sad piano song, like really awkwardly for the crowd the whole time. Yeah. Especially because when they start clapping, they're like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. So start clapping. And all of it was like, obviously it was in his head, but even the music, was nothing like what he was actually playing in the club.
I've always sort of thought like maybe that whole scene in the actual timeline just sort of plays out more or less from what we see of that actual timeline. Like, and like that the flashback does not happen literally in the amount of time it takes the flashback to happen in. Like maybe he literally just plays for like 30 seconds,
That's
and
even
then he
worse.
just stops, and they're like, okay.
That's almost worse.
It is, but like I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, probably.
But that's probably
because the
I
sequence
mean,
is
hopefully
like
not.
7 minutes long.
Because, like, then her husband's like, you want to stay for another? So I'm assuming he enjoyed whatever was played.
Oh, yeah, that's true. He does say that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe he's just an idiot. Maybe he just doesn't know jazz. So he's like, this was good. And she's like, you don't know jazz.
She's the next.
Yeah, she's the next.
Oh, gosh.
So good. Yeah, I know we just talked about, like, this a sad scene, but not to bring it to another sad scene, but I think it might be my other favorite scene in the movie, outside of the ending, is their argument at the dinner table.
Yeah.
When she comes home, right, and he's making dinner, because she was, like, trying to get a hold of him and couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think this scene's, like, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Even, like, I know it's so obvious, but, like, with the record in the background, and as the argument goes on, like, the record just stops, because it's, like, the romantic energy is just destroyed, and it's just this really sad argument that they're having. And the way that argument plays out, like, feels very sad, but also feels very, like, real in a very sad way, of, like, these two people that are both trying to do a thing, and, like, are fans of each other, but, like, at the same time, like, just are having a hard time making it work.
Mm-hmm.
So sad. But you also get some of my favorite line, like her line that has always stuck with me, of when she tells it, like, he's like, nobody even likes jazz. Like, you said yourself, nobody even likes jazz, so what's the point? And you like jazz? And she's like, it doesn't matter, because, like, you're passionate about it, and people like what other people are passionate about, which has always stuck with me, because I thought that's a very, like, important thing, I think, to take with you in life, to, like, not just do things because other people like or do those things. Like, if you care enough about it, other people will also start to realize and care about it. Yeah, and then the whole scene's great, but it just ends very sadly. This was also the scene I was talking about where I said Emma Stone's performance, like, really worked for me, where, like, at the end of the argument, I forget exactly what he says, but he says something, like, incredibly, like, hurtful. And
he says, maybe you're only with me to make you feel better about your own life.
Yes, that's what he says. And, like, her reaction shot to that is, I think, like, her best performance in the movie. Like, she does such a good job of conveying, like, just how fucking hurtful that was to say. And just, like, doesn't even know what to do, and essentially just leaves. And it's like, I can't. Yeah, I was blown away by that.
Also,
yeah,
good
sorry.
scene.
Also, to your point, when the record player stops playing, at that point of the movie, it stops being a musical because both characters are unhappy, and it does not become a musical again until her audition.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that being another criticism as well, that, like, people were like, it's not even a full musical, and I was like,
That's the point.
that's the
Criticizing
point.
the storytelling.
Yeah, I was like, did you miss the
story?
the part
Did
of
you
this?
miss the movie?
Did you watch? Did you not notice that the musical elements are serving them when they're in their most, like, romantic and, like, dreamful part of their life, and as they get crushed into reality, the musical elements fade away, and it's only when they get back into the surreality of being happy that it comes back. Like,
Here's what happened. That person was late.
Yeah.
And they showed up at the
record scratch.
Yes, and then they had to leave just before her audition, and they were like, "There's no music in this movie. This isn't a musical." What
no,
the fuck?"
basically. I don't know. Sometimes like we said, sometimes people's criticisms are so unfounded and weird. But I also really like that choice. I just think it helps it be more than just the typical musical about, like, trying to achieve something. Like, it's really, like, there's way more artistry going on there. It's even playing with the format itself, which I always appreciate when it can be done well. So.
Yes. And then that kind of leads into another scene which I really love, which is when he drives to wherever her childhood home is, and, like, just inspires her to give it another try.
Very much
and
the
she's
Notebook
like,
energy of him screaming at her to do something. Also,
Yeah.
kind of like Rory and Jess. Why'd you have to quit Yale?
That scene is fantastic. Dan, I don't know
sorry
if we
you
ever
didn't
talked
get
about
there,
this,
Dan.
but
Maybe one day.
it's okay.
in, like, season 6 of Gilmore
One of the bad
Girls-
ones.
So it has to be 6. Okay, first of all, in, like, season 3, there was this guy named Jess who's, like, a bad boy that Rory falls in love with, and he ends up leaving. It doesn't matter. And then in season 6, Rory, like, her whole life, like, she wants to go to Yale, and she, like, got to Yale and stuff, but then, like, someone was mean to her once, so she drops out of Yale. And, like, it was the dumbest plot in the whole show, and the
Second
most
dumbest
validating
plot.
part was that... Yes. And the most validating part was that Jess shows up for one episode, literally just to say, why did you drop out of Yale? You're acting like a fucking idiot. And it, like, resets the plot almost, and then she, like, decides to go back to Yale, and, like, that whole stupid plot line ends. But you're right, it absolutely does have that exact same energy. Yeah.
Well, anyway, all I wanted to say was that I like when he honks his horn, and that's like a trope, or like a repeated thing with his character throughout the movie.
Yes.
Because the first time they interacted ever was on the highway, and he was honking at her.
It's a cute callback.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also has a really great line, like, similar to her line about, where she says, like, if you are passionate enough, like, people will care. Like, I think, does he not also give, like, a really meaningful piece of advice in this scene or something to, like, help kick her into, not literally kick her, like, kickstart?
It's the same idea, just worded differently, but he's giving it back to her, yeah. And I also like how she's like, how did you find my house, by the way? And he's like, it's the one in front of the library. Just, I don't know, his delivery.
He's so good.
He can deliver, like, anything, and it's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about Ryan Gosling.
He's got that energy. I love the next morning when he's like, well, look, I'm going to be out here, I don't know. And then, like, he shows up, and he's like, fuck, she's not here. And he goes to drive away, and she, like, comes into frame, and he, like, has to play it off, like, oh,
I wasn't just about to leave you.
It's so funny.
I was just moving my car.
Yeah, it's such a good beat.
Yeah. Is there anything else to...
Yeah, I mean, I will just throw out there, too, we haven't really talked about it, but I love Mia and Sebastian's just piano theme, like the song that he plays the first time they meet. Fuck. That's not like a song, like a sing and dance number song, but that might be my favorite just piece of music in the movie.
See, and for me, the epilogue is my favorite piece of music, but because of how it utilizes that piece of music.
Yes, it's like the through line of it. Yeah. Yeah, I think that is really just a really nice piece of music that really, like, works in this musical.
It's called Mia and Sebastian's theme. Which also, like,
perfect.
Just, this is, like, such a surface level point, but I love the names Mia and Sebastian. So just even the title of that song is just such a nice title.
Yeah, it's nice.
Is it because it reminds you of Mamma Mia?
No, actually. Believe it or not. I don't think of Mamma Mia every time I hear Mia. But I could. Maybe now that you mentioned it, it'll be one of those things.
Yeah.
Because similarly, when I hear Sebastian, I just think of...
Little Mermaid?
Yes.
Nice. That's fair.
The Lobster.
That is fair. Yeah, that's a very fair point. Yeah, the only other thing I was going to say, and I know this is, like, famous trivia at this point, but I think it just goes to show, like, the brilliance of their chemistry, but I think it's the first time they're singing City of Stars together, because, like, he sings it at the pier, where, like, he dances with that random lady, and the husband is like, what the fuck are you doing? Which is another great scene.
And then they start dancing.
Yeah.
Yes. But he then, like, she comes home, and he's playing it at the piano, and he starts singing it, and, like, they start singing together, and then she sits next to him, and, like, in that scene, in the take they did, there are, like, multiple, like, fumbles where they messed up parts of it that they just kept in because they were, like, cute and played it off. Like, there was, like, there's one part where like, he fucks it up and she starts laughing at him, but, like, that's legitimately because he fucked it up, and, like, he then fucks up the piano at another part and she starts laughing, and they both start laughing. And yeah, they just kept it in the movie because they were like, this is adorable. This is way better than if you guys just did it perfectly. And yeah, I just think it's so great.
Also, Ryan Gosling can't
notice
whistle.
that too.
Yeah.
Really?
So Justin Hurwitz, the person who, like, wrote the music, had to do it for him. In
weird.
City
I
of
also don't know
Stars
how to whistle.
when he whistles.
Never learned.
Nice. I can, like, kind of whistle sometimes.
That's not
Yeah,
bad.
I'm kind of, it depends on the day.
Can you snap your
I can
fingers?
usually do it. I can't snap my fingers, though. There's barely any noise.
Weird.
Yeah. And it's only working right now because my hands are really sweaty. Normally there's, like, a lot less noise than this.
Yeah, you need kind of sweaty hands to snap.
All right, anything else about La La Land, guys?
Sweaty hands to snap. Some people can whistle, some people can't.
Some people can't. I want to just touch, this is kind of, it goes to both movies. I didn't bring it up with Whiplash, but just about like the lead actors and the music playing. I wanted to touch on for a second because both Miles Teller and Ryan Gosling did learn to a certain extent how to play piano and drums for the movies. However, I think both movies, and this is credit to Damien Chazelle and whoever the cinematographer was, I don't think it was the same for both movies, but I don't know. Maybe it was. They do a really good job of blending what's clearly them playing with then hiding it when they're obviously not the ones playing. So, like, with Ryan Gosling in this, you can always tell because, like, they'll do a nice little pan shot down to just his fingers, but it doesn't look like there's
He's
a cut.
never had
They
a
do really
hand
good
double.
job of hiding it.
No, it's IMDb said
I don't know how they
so.
would cut there, though.
But but then here's the other thing I'll say, right? Yes, but that doesn't mean that they used his playing as the recording on
Yeah,
the
no,
track.
that'll
so
give
like
you.
he could have not been playing
Absolutely.
it correctly. You know what I mean?
They obviously re-recorded.
Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah. So, like, to an extent. And I remember my dad pointing out with Whiplash, too, especially that last drum solo.
Well, yeah, it did go on for 9 minutes.
There was
straight.
He was like, that is like a top 10 drummers in the world. He was like, there was not a fucking chance Miles Teller did that drum solo. Yeah, there's no...
He would be like the best actor in the world.
Like, there is no way. There was no... But, again, like, I think they do a really good job of hiding it because the stuff that he could be playing, because that song goes up and down in tempo a lot, they show him playing, but anytime it's not, like, again, it's just a close-up of his face, or it's a really wide shot where his arms are just flying, so he's probably not making all the hits that he needs to be making and whatever.
No way.
So, but I think it's just, like...
the law of close enough where if you hear the correct track,
Bingo.
you just, like, sure.
Yeah, it doesn't stand out whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they do a very good job of hiding that.
Absolutely.
And credit to the actors for studying enough to be able to really pass it off as well. It's just, it really all kind of melts together and works together. Yeah, great.
John Legend also had to learn how to play guitar for this because normally he plays piano and Ryan Gosling plays guitar, but they
No shit.
Because Ryan Gosling has a band.
That's cool.
Do you guys know that?
I did not.
I don't remember
that.
what it's called.
What's it
It's
called?
kind of like indie rock type music. He kind of just like mumble sings, if I remember correctly. I don't even remember what it's called.
Yeah, if I had one critique of this movie, it's just that, like, Ryan Gosling is not as good of a singer as Emma Stone, but, like, he's not
Dead
bad.
Man's Bones.
Yeah,
That's
I mean-
the name of his band.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
I know what you're saying. Like, he doesn't have the range that Emma Stone does.
No.
But it's, like, he's fine for what he needs to be
Yeah.
in this movie.
Oh yeah, I mean he's no Russell Crowe or
He's no,
Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, no. Like he is perfectly fine. But he's just, I mean Emma Stone is just phenomenal. Like she's a great singer, and he's not quite, but that's okay, because he's so great that who cares?
Yeah.
And also he doesn't really sing that much.
Yeah,
anyway,
he doesn't
so.
have to like belt
No,
like
not
she
really.
does in the audition or anything. So
Yeah, it's really just City of Stars, in which case like you can kind of mumble a little bit through that song.
Yeah.
Do you have any miscellaneous notes, Carol?
no, I think I sprinkled them all in. Honestly, I was doing this research right before bed last night, and this film had so many fun facts, most of which were just a fact from earlier up on the page, slightly differently worded, because I guess there's no one checking that kind of stuff. So I felt like I was looking at that page for an hour straight, and at one point I just gave up. So I dropped in, the most interesting stuff where I could, but a lot of it is not that deep. Although apparently the holding your car clicker, what's it called? Your car keys to your chin to help find your car actually works.
Really?
I like his line where he's like, yeah, it gives you cancer, but at least you get to where you're going
But
faster,
apparently
so it's
that
for the
part is
balance.
untrue. It doesn't give you cancer.
I would hope so.
But it does
Yeah.
work.
I don't know how it would give you
Apparently
cancer.
because the brain is made of mostly water, so that helps to amplify the signal. I don't know.
Oh, like
This
it's
is
a
also
medium
a
for
fact
it
from
to be
IMDb, so
passive.
I don't know how much we trust them, but
Oh, so it refracts it everywhere?
Yes, I
It
don't
sends
know.
it out.
Sends it out.
optics.
Yeah. I like how people just assume anything to do with technology will give you cancer. Like, you know when it was like back in the day when it was like, don't sit too close to the TV, like you'll go blind. And it's like, that is not based in any found science whatsoever. Like, this is nothing. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
People just like to throw that around just to be spooky. I have one more, it's not really a fact about the movie, but it was just a funny experience from when Maddie and I were watching it, which was when we got to that scene on this rewatch. Obviously not the first time. When we got to that scene, when he's explaining the jazz, and he's like, and like, this person's doing this, and this person's doing that. Maddie turned to me and she was like, this was like you explaining the MCU to me before I had watched it. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That pretty much is how that went. And so then for the rest of the movie, we were just like using the analogy of like jazz as just being like a fan of the MCU, and as like Emma Stone became like more, anyway. So that was just a fun thing.
There's the line that she has where she's like, I like jazz now because of you.
Yeah, that's literally, yeah, that's us, but with the MCU, if we were having that argument. Yeah.
Okay, I also remembered one more thing I want to say.
Okay.
I like this movie's use of vignettes. And they use a lot of like closing vignette circles, but also just like so many shots have like vignettes in the corners.
Yeah.
I think I'm growing to like that more and more, where I like either like soft focus or like a pastel color palette and like use of vignettes, all of this coming together to be this nice like old-fashioned Hollywood look, rather than like a sharp focus necessarily all of the time and like gritty colors. I just love the look of this movie.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. You know what other movie had that kind of visual style?
What
recently?
Was that?
Okay, bye. Thanks again for listening to the Feature Length Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to us if you liked this video or audio. Give us a rating and review. If you want to stay up to date with the latest episodes of this podcast, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the bell to be notified when we post a new video, or follow the podcast on Spotify. If you want to connect with us directly, you can follow us on Instagram at featurelengthpodcast, or even send us an email at featurelengthpodcast@gmail.com. Catch you on the flip side.